last shot is called the Martini shot, even by people who don't drink martinis.
Well, first of all, through God, all things are possible, so jot that down.
This town needs an enema.
That shit is the Mad Notes, written by God herself and handed down to the greatest band in the world.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live.
All right, we are live. Welcome to the Martini Shot Hangout, everyone. Today is Sunday, June 8th. I'm your host, Chris. So it was a relatively slow movie news week. I mean, there's still a lot of trailers and things like that came out, but we do have some things to talk about. Lilo and Stitch beat Ballerina at the box office. There was some Alien news. Alien Romulus is making a sequel. Alien Earth graced us with the trailer. And then there's apparently a bidding war that's broken out for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre film rights. Walt Goggins is in talks to star in a classic video game franchise. And apparently Martin Scorsese doesn't want to go to the movies anymore. So before I introduce my guest today, be sure to smash that like button, share this stream with a friend, as I'm live at 5 every Sunday, except for next Sunday. I'm going to be traveling. So joining me today to talk about this and whatever else we damn well feel like is Chino Marin, a.k.a. Chino Collects, a.k.a. Chino Does Movies. Chino, what's good, man? How are you today?
How's it going, dude? That's a lot of AKAs, bro.
What's that?
That's a lot of AKAs, man.
That is a lot of AKAs. Yeah, when I was going through your YouTube, I was like, damn, homie's got a bunch of YouTube channels. I don't know which ones you like to direct people to.
I got to stop. I just got to cut it all out. It's time for a rebrand.
Do you have one that you kind of like make your bread and butter, or?
I recently started the Chino Collects one. The Chino Does Movies used to be a channel that I started with my wife. And it just kind of stayed dormant after we had our first daughter, and decided to like do something with it recently. But I don't know. I just get so bored of my own stuff.
I know, man. That's the struggle is real, especially because we're film professionals outside of this. I feel like we're like easily the most harshest critics on our own stuff, that it probably it's probably one of the biggest downsides to what we do for a living.
100%. And I think when you are in that space, it's very hard to come home, want to be creative for yourself. You have to have a lot of like just drive and energy. And you know, I got a lot of like my family with my two girls and my wife, like I give them a lot of my energy. So sometimes it puts me at a point where I'm low and I have nothing to give to creating or doing stuff like this, you know?
Yeah. I was telling my wife, I was like, you know, there's so many people that get burnt out and they do this full time. I'm like, I got a full-time job on top of trying to be a creator on the side. It's not like the best way to live. But I feel like it's kind of a necessity almost nowadays if you want to really stay in this realm, especially like the film community. I don't know how you feel about the community these days. I kind of have mixed feelings about some of the things, some of the people, some of the shady things that goes on. But I've also found some really awesome people. I mean, I know you got your podcast with Christian over there, the 1 Minute Critic. And, you know, I tune in from time to time, watch some of your guys' stuff. So, but I feel like you, me, him, we kind of all have that same perspective, I guess you could say.
Yeah, we're a bunch of old heads in this space. You know? It's a young man's game. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to that stuff, I think when I started making content, when it came to movie stuff, it was before the days of TikTok. It was before the days of, you know, Instagram. So, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, but I just didn't capitalize on it when all these other platforms started to come out, you know? So it's interesting to see it evolve from what it used to be to where it is now, where virtually anybody who just loves movies can pick up their cell phone, record themselves talking about it. And it just kind of comes down to who's the most appealing, who's the loudest, who's the, you know, who's saying the things that rage and bait and all the above, you know?
Yeah, really catch the algorithm's attention.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing I think that's frustrating. I see you and me, we put out pretty quality stuff, but it's like, I'll also see some other dudes that come up with just their cell phone and like some shitty green screen, and their stuff goes like insanely massively viral, and it took them like 10 minutes to make. Whereas you and me might be spending like half a day editing something that we put together. So that's the thing that's also, I think, a little frustrating for professionals, is like, damn, mine looked and sounded 10 million times better, yet that was the one that caught fire.
And it's rough because every platform is so different, right? Like TikTok, for example, I would consider myself to be very successful on TikTok, whereas Instagram, no success whatsoever. Like Instagram wants like all the polished, pretty stuff, but TikTok wants just that raw, like raw video, raw everything. So I can't necessarily, I mean, I end up uploading the same stuff from TikTok over to Instagram, but it just doesn't hit the same. It never does. And then YouTube is its own other beast.
Yeah.
So you find yourself going, well, which one am I committing to? Because you kind of have to commit to one. It's very hard to do both. So it's a very interesting space to be in. Some days it's hard. Like even right now on TikTok, I have not posted in 4 days. I just mentally, I'm not there.
Yeah.
I need to just step away from it. And I know that that's hurting me. You know, the moment you just decide to not post for like a day, TikTok's already like, you're going to, you know, jails for your views. You're going to be sitting at 200 for the next 5 days until you give us like 20 videos. So it is what it is.
I know we were talking briefly, but you said that you were banned on TikTok, or you got spanking from TikTok. What was that about?
It was my second live that I did with TikTok, and I got a permanent ban. I didn't know the rules when it comes to TikTok, and I wasn't doing anything, you know, malicious of any kind, but I like to joke. I like to joke a lot. And
we're that age, man. Like, you know, we grew up with all those comedies that would be deemed offensive, but to us, it was just normal.
So at the time, I had just started TikTok, and I would always wear a hat. I never showed my hair, and my hair was about 13 inches longer than it is right now. Wow. So I had crazy long hair, and I had it like shaved to the side. And then while I was doing my live, I took my hat off to adjust because my head was itching. And one guy goes, "Oh my God, you have gorgeous hair." And I said, "Well, if you want to see that and anything else, just head on over to my OnlyFans." Apparently saying those words was enough to say that I was what was I doing? I was soliciting sexual favors.
My God.
Yeah. It's
that's
wild.
Dude, yeah, that's the thing with TikTok. Like I was growing like crazy over there because a lot of my content, like I grew like crazy on Instagram. I feel like both of them have caps, I guess. Like I was growing like crazy on Instagram, and then one day they were like, okay, we're just gonna kind of keep you status quo. And then TikTok, I was growing like crazy, and then all of a sudden, like all the videos I started putting out, they'd get like 2-3 views, and I was like, what the hell is going on? So I reached out to them because I was getting like hundreds of thousands per, like, you know, not all the time, but pretty frequently. And then, but at least it'd see like 1,000 views per video. I'd say it would, that'd be like a low number. And then all of a sudden it was like 10 straight videos. I was getting like 1-2 views, and I was like, what is going on? I reached out, and I know that they're all basically just like run by AI now. So it's impossible to get someone. Well, someone finally reached out like 2 months after I was doing it, and they were like, yeah, oh yeah, if you want to show like movie trailers or movie footage or any of that stuff, you need to show it in the back half of your video now. Otherwise, we're just going to say it's unoriginal content, and we're going to flag it, and we're not going to show it to anybody.
That's crazy.
And I was like, that'd be nice to know, like if you communicated with people that this was happening. You know, it's like I've spent all this time working on this shit, and then nobody looks at it. It's ridiculous. So I have a very love-hate relationship with TikTok. They'll censor the dumbest things. They'll hide your video because they'll be like, there was alcohol in this shot, and you're like, there was no alcohol anywhere. What are you talking? Then you appeal it, then they don't show it to anybody after that. And it's just it's a whole mess over there.
None of it makes sense. So I run a few faceless accounts on TikTok, and these accounts they have nothing to do with movies. They're just completely separate accounts where I just try to make some extra income.
Sure.
And one of these accounts in particular, every other day, I'm getting flagged for low quality content.
Yes.
And the low quality part, I don't understand, because it's not actually low quality. It just usually tends to be when you enlarge somebody's face and their face takes up a lot of like the real estate on the screen. That's when it gets flagged. But then I'll have certain videos that on those particular accounts have hit over 1 million views, and they actually are low quality. Like the source that I got it from is a 720p source.
Yeah.
Versus like a 4K or a 2K video source. And those are the ones getting hit with low quality. So none of it makes sense. And
no, it doesn't.
Same with you. It's a love-hate relationship with them.
Yeah, and I know our buddy Christian, he got kicked off of TikTok totally. His account got banned because they thought he was a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, I mean, he acts like one though. So we can,
well, that's one thing, but you know.
No. Shout out to Christian, 1 minute critic.
Yeah, he's a great dude. been trying to get him on here, but trying to get him.
Oh, good luck.
I know,
Good luck.
man. I know.
When we do our thing, like we don't take ourselves seriously because he lives in the West Coast. I'm in the Midwest. So our time is crazy, and he can't do till after either 10 or 11 p.m. his time. So that's like midnight or 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. my time.
Yeah. Are you central time?
Yeah.
Yeah, you and me both.
So it's getting him to do something is mission. It's quite the mission.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to him for a while, and like he actually sent me a voice. It was like, "Look, dude, I'm not like intentionally avoiding you. It's just my schedule's crazy. I got 4 kids," and I was like, "Look, dude, if there was anybody else, and they were just avoiding me, I get it, but I'm like, I know you're busy. You're working film production. You got 4 kids. Like, you want to be there for your kids outside of this stuff. Like, I totally understand." So he's like, "I'll get on there one day. I promise. I just got to find some time." And I was like, "Hey, man, if you can't, no hard feelings whatsoever."
Yeah, you'd have to go live with them on a Friday night at midnight or 1 a.m. your time.
Yeah.
That's gonna be it.
I think one time we talked before I started the stream, and we were just gonna do, want to just shoot the shit sort of thing, and that's what he said. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I can try to find it. It's just, I got 3 kids, and when midnight's around, I'm usually asleep. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I know that you have the physical media side of things, and I'm a very big physical media proponent. I'm not into just basically paying the same price for someone else to own their shit, and they can take it up at any time. Most people don't realize that if you have a iTunes or Prime account, if you're spending the $25 for a movie, you don't own it. You're essentially just renting it for them until their license runs out. So how do you find that side of things these days? Because I'm in the film industry, so I feel like I'm in a bubble. There's a lot of physical media collectors, but for the most part it seems like it's dying, or it's super niche at this point. Have you found any success, or are you encouraged by it? I mean, there was a period there, especially during COVID, where things were kind of getting a little wonky on the internet, and people were kind of gearing towards physical media. But now that things have kind of laxed a little bit, it doesn't seem to have the same steam, I guess, it had before.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen it slow down, obviously, with major retail stores like Best Buy no longer carrying them, Target. It's becoming harder to be able to just walk into a store to get one, right? Walmart still sells them, but Walmart is weird. Like,
it's
Walmart,
and
it's random stuff. Like, they're recently, like, I walked in and I saw A24 section. Like, what is going on? They have like their own A24 section in Walmart, but then they have a bin where there's like, all these like great movies for $1. So it's a hit or miss when it comes to that. For me personally, I think because I've been collecting for over 30 years, it's just always been a part of me, right? So like I find it that, like, I still do the same thing that I was doing 10 years ago before, like, I guess it became popular, because it's kind of had these up and downs where it's like you had your collectors collecting, doing their thing, and then it got a little bit more popular with, like, social media, with like a lot of YouTube channels popping up about guys that are collecting, buying every Tuesday and all this sort of stuff. So I've never really been in that space or in that circle. So I don't know what it's like for other people, but just for me, it's kind of been the same. I go online, I get all my stuff imported. Amazon, a lot of boutique label stuff, and I just buy the things I love. There's I think for a lot of other people that are just getting into it, they find it kind of hard because there's a lot of stuff that they can't get access to anymore, where I'm like, shit, I've been sitting on this thing for 20 plus years. Like, I got this, I'm never getting rid of this DVD or whatever the case is. But I mean, I don't know if it dies out. I don't think it'll ever die out. I think there are companies out there that'll make sure that, they give stuff to the people that want it. And there's a lot of filmmakers out there that don't want their stuff to just disappear into, the space of the internet.
Like the Chris Nolans and Martin Scorsese's and stuff.
Like, even with like Mike Flanagan, as of recently, him just going to bat to make sure that his stuff comes out, getting Hush, on physical media, was a huge win, for movies. If just physical media in general. It didn't stop me from getting a pirated version, though. I've had that thing sitting in my collection for a few years now. I think it was like 6 months after it released on Netflix when you knew that it wasn't going to come out anywhere else. No, that was in my collection. So
yeah, super underrated Mike Flanagan movie too, by the way.
Absolutely.
I think that's where he met his wife, was making that movie, right?
Is it?
I think so. I believe so. I might be wrong. Someone could fact check me on that. So how do you, one of the things I was talking with a physical media collector about that he's concerned about, I mean, I'm encouraged to a certain extent. I do like with things like Tombstone coming out on 4K, like they're releasing some good movies that we've been dying to have in that format for a long time. And it seems like that's not slowing down. It seems like they're starting to put a lot more classics out. But one thing I am a little eerie on is the AI thing. Instead of like actually having humans go back and touch up everything, it feels like studios now are just trying to possibly use AI to enhance everything. And it's visually apparent when they do something like that. So have you looked into that? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I haven't really paid attention to it. I know that there are people that have complained because there's been some things like I think it was a James Cameron movie.
Yep, The Abyss,
right?
I think, and the True Lies.
Yeah. So I really haven't paid attention to it. And also, I'm weird, man. Like, I don't upgrade everything. I don't upgrade everything just because there's a 4K for it.
I agree.
Like, I buy the stuff that I love. I never just buy because I have fear of missing out or just to have it. Like, I've never understood that mentality. And also, I guess I'm not that wealthy to just buy whatever the hell, you know? But like, I will, like, my DVD collection, I find it to be superior to my Blu-rays and my 4Ks because I'm big. I speak on this so much, and I talk about the quality of like DVDs from the way that they look, the menu, the special features. Like, that's the stuff to me that matters.
That's a lost art too, man. Those DVD menus back in the day were freaking works of art. A lot of them, even if they were just cheesy, it still had something that was kind of cool and unique about them. And now if you get a 4K, it's just a menu, nothing.
Yeah, that's all it is. And I, we spoke prior to going live about kind of what we do for a living, and I told you I do film production. The special features on those DVDs is the reason that I am able to do what I do today. I didn't have the money to go to, film school. I didn't have the money to go to college. I tried to go to college for a year and failed because I was working and having to go, and it just was too tired. So I was like, I'm done with this. And I learned everything that I could from those DVDs. I dissected each and every one of them. Yeah. And I never got rid of them, like Robert Rodriguez has a 10-minute film school.
I was just going to say those 10, 15-minute film schools he did on his DVDs are more insightful than pretty much anything else that you can watch.
Yeah. And I applied that. I remember when I sat, I had my opportunity to film my very first short film. I was a DP on it, and we had to do this gag with this eye where the person's eye got taken out, and the guy like throws it in a glass of water, and you see it for like a split-second drop. Right. And I remember, I don't know from which DVD this was, but I remembered them talking about how they made this gag with an eyeball and an egg. And I, just from watching that, I was able to replicate that in 30 minutes, on set, because we needed to do this, and got the shot. And I was like, holy crap. Like, I learned that from a DVD 10 years ago. I don't remember what it was, and just able to take all of those things with me. So I don't know where the hell I was going with any of this. If I'm being honest, I'm just, no,
that's okay, man. It's always fun to just, it's all that's the point of this whole show is like,
but I don't pay attention to that stuff. I don't pay attention to the AI stuff. I think right now it's a lot of talk because it's so popular. AI is everywhere.
Well, being in the production industry, does it concern you at all?
No,
not really. Okay.
Not one bit. No.
Even doing music too?
No, it's not real.
No, it's not.
There's no heart. There's no soul.
That's very true. And I talk to a lot of people. I say one of the things that you really need to pay attention to is that it can't function right now, at least, without some sort of human prompting it to do what it needs it to do.
Correct.
It's 100% soulless. Yeah. I mean, I do have concerns with it, especially with some of the newer stuff I've seen coming out. But, at the end of the day, it hasn't changed my job any, but there are some people I know that are kind of sweating that a little bit.
Yeah.
the only thing that I ask is, and I know this is a big ask because we're dealing with Hollywood here, is that they're transparent about it. You know, I mean, they made like a big old stink about it. They went on strike with the WGA stuff, and we're like, AI is going to take all our jobs, blah blah blah. And then it's like, you know, if you watch modern movies now, I don't know if you feel the same way, especially if you're watching like a streaming movie. I just watch so much crap. I'm just like, man, this whole thing feels like it was written by an AI, you know? Or at least assisted in a lot of the plot points or something like that. So that's the slippery slope I see more than maybe like it completely taking over the industry. The IP thing is a little concerning to me. You know, like I feel like maybe Disney or HBO or something like that might choose to go down a path where instead of making new content, they just license their IPs to AI. So, you know, like Joe Schmo on the internet can essentially be like, hey, I want to watch Mickey Mouse and Hercules from the Disney movies, you know, battle against Game of Thrones or something. And then it just creates it in 1 hour and we're not watching movies anymore. But I do think the human aspect is always going to overcome. There's going to be people that get sick of this crap and just go, look, I just want to watch Tom Cruise do crazy stunt. I'm tired of this AI stuff.
Yeah. You're going to have a little bit of every, like two different, you know, audiences of like, oh, we love watching this, and others that will stand up, you know, to not have this be the case. Yeah. But honestly, like there are certain, you know, when it comes to like film production and the work that I do, at least for me, there are certain like things that I do that I can see AI taking over. Yeah. But because I'm like a jack of all trades, and I've been a one-man band for over 12 years in this business, you know, I know that I still have security in what I do, because unless there's a T800 running around with a freaking camera, that'll be my concern, you know, when we're actually getting actual robots filming and creating. And I come from a documentary background, so you know,
that's one side of film I think that's never going away, is the documentary. Like AI can't replace that, because there's no, like you said, there's no humanity to that. You're not telling a real story.
Yeah, but with like, you know, like your Netflix, you know, movies and that sort of thing, you do see the dip in quality when it comes to a lot of movies, because I think they are using certain tools for shortcuts. But that's also, I try to look at it like what's the good in that? And it's, well, if you write something really freaking good and you make something really damn good, it's gonna stand out. Yeah, because there is so much shit being thrown at us that when you get one thing that's just like, holy crap, you know, you have a real opportunity to shine and to stand out amongst everything else that's going on. So I don't know, I guess it pushes me to want to do better.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, as small creators, I mean, I found AI to be a helpful tool. I find the idea of writing like a script or something like that from it gross, but it's great in assisting in like research. You know, if I like, my YouTube channel is a little bit different than like my Instagram or TikTok, where I just basically review movies and make dumb GIFs or something. But my YouTube channel, I try to make more like film analysis or tell like wild ass stories that, you know, people don't necessarily know about. Like my next video coming out is going to be all about how Popeye was apparently the most coked out movie of all time, you know, like, and it helps kind of put a good idea of what you need to research, and it can kind of help you dive deeper a little bit quicker, especially when you need to be turning out stuff like on a weekly basis for YouTube video side of things. So it's definitely helpful in that realm, I found. It's cool. Like if I wanted to score something and I just needed like a quick sound bed that's not going to raise any flags, and I own it, you know, if I use Suno or something just to put some like a quick music bed underneath, it's nice for that. So there are definitely plus sides, especially for smaller creators or film production you know, professionals like you and myself. Like there's definitely some things that we can use in there to just really help us hone our craft and be faster, quicker, and more efficient.
Yeah, I've used, I'm trying to think of when I've used it. Like I know that I had to create this intro for this one video for a channel that I work on. This was from the owner though, so it was the only time that I had to actually create video of things that he was narrating. He wanted a whole introduction that didn't exist, and he was like, just use AI. I was like, okay. And that was tough, because that, like, you know, when I finished doing it, I just was like, damn, like we could have just hired somebody that could have done this. You know, and he just didn't want to do it. But I have no control over that. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I get paid to do. Just, it sucked.
Yeah.
That was the one time.
I get it. Yeah, it's just there's a lot of things that I find interesting, but we'll see where it goes. The way it's advanced over the last 2 years is pretty crazy.
Yeah,
but
those Google videos are crazy, dude.
Those Neo videos are insane. Like,
scary.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have a trained eye, so it's easy for us to be like, oh yeah, like I can totally tell it's AI, even though it's still really, really good. But, if you're just like a 70-year-old dude who doesn't really pay that close attention, you see something like that, it's very easy to see how that could be believable.
Yeah. And that's my fear. I think my biggest fear isn't so much like when it comes to the industry. I look at it as more people are going to have such a hard time believing things that they see now.
Yeah.
When you actually show something, and I read the comments and I'm like, what was it? There was a airplane crash. I forget what year it was in. It was in the late 90s. They had crashed right by an island, and the people were on the island when the plane actually comes across.
Yeah.
And it's vivid. And I remember reading the comments. I'm like, clearly AI. I'm like, oh my God, we're talking about actual history, real people. You know what I mean? And it's just all diminished to just, oh, it's AI.
Yeah.
Just
that's you saw the new Mission Impossible, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of like the point of the entity was just like nobody knows what's real and fake anymore, and I see that just kind of, we're in such a turbulent political timeline, I guess you could say. Like normal people during our everyday, like I don't deal with it, but if I get online, I'm just bombarded with that crap. So that's where I can really definitely see it digging its heels in and it getting pretty freaking wild. Changing the way someone says something, or
it's so scary.
It could get pretty wild. So what'd you think of the new Mission Impossible movie, just to segue to that?
I enjoyed it. I saw it a few weeks after it was released.
Okay.
And I did hear a lot of negative reviews prior to the movie coming out. A lot of my mutuals were just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
I personally enjoyed it a lot more than what I was expecting to, based off of those negative reviews.
Yeah.
I gotta say that I enjoyed it more than the previous installment.
Really?
I felt as though, I know that it was a lot slower. I mean, there was a lot more story, a lot to cram in.
Yeah.
But I felt a lot of tension in this movie that I didn't feel in the last one. And I knew Tom Cruise was going to make it out alive. Like, it wasn't like, oh, Tom Cruise was going to die. But for some reason, I still felt that tension. And it's weird to say that, because I always talk about that when it comes to like Marvel movies. I'm like, why is everybody so like, when Infinity War came out and I don't feel so good, and people are crying in the theaters. I remember looking at my friend, I'm like, why are you crying? They just announced like 3 more movies. The dude's fine.
The comic book movie.
So it was kind of like that. Like, I shouldn't be feeling this kind of tension, but it was just shot so well. It was, the story really kind of kept me intrigued, and I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4-star, I think, on Box. So
yeah, I mean, I think I saw it before, like all the reviews were coming out of people just kind of meh, and I understood it. I think I gave it a 7 out of 10. It wasn't my favorite, and I think the problem with that movie is, and I know that you said you liked it better than Dead Reckoning. I didn't, but I think the movies were so strong, at least since the 4th one. Like 4, 5, 6, 7. You could easily make a case for any of those being like an all-time classic action film. So it's like you had a really high bar walking into that movie. So I think a lot of people were like, oh, if this is Fallout Part 2, then this is going to be the greatest movie ever. And Dead Reckoning, I mean, even though it was basically just a setup movie, there's really no conclusion to that film whatsoever. You're like, oh, if they just piggyback off that, this could really set up something epic. And I think the problem I had personally with the movie was there's just so much exposition. And there's a lot of stuff they kind of left out, like all the White Widow stuff. She was like a huge player in Dead Reckoning, and they just completely didn't even acknowledge that she existed in the final Reckoning. I was like, man, the last we saw her was in the train, and then like that whole subplot was completely ditched. And I'm wondering if it was because what's her name was doing the Fantastic Four movie at the same time. So if they just kind of had to be like, we'll just pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But the stunts, I mean, like I was like the what's it called? The Burj Khalifa, I was like, how are you going to beat that? And then watching this one, you're just like, damn, dude, I'm so invested in what's happening with this stunt in this movie. It's insane.
Yeah. I thought so. You know how he did the whole like maneuvering on the wing?
Yeah, I watched a little thing about that and
Yeah.
how like it was almost impossible for him to breathe, and how he the only way he can catch a breath was by putting his arm up like this and letting the wind go over his head.
You know, he wasn't strapped into the plane either, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just like the wires that he was like maneuvering through. It's crazy.
Yeah, that guy's nuts, man. And I'm like, see, that's why I feel like Tom Cruise is really the last movie star that we have.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that guy does everything. He like sacrifices his own well-being just for our enjoyment.
I saw the one where he's sitting in the helicopter with the director, and he's like, "You gonna come out with me on this one?" He's like, "Nope, not at all." He's like, "All right, see." He just jumps off. I'm like, dude, just
and he's
anxiety.
Anxiety. Exactly.
Like, what's my excuse? You know,
and he just has the biggest shit-eating grin on his face when he's doing it the whole time. You know, you're like, oh, there's something to be said about this guy. And what a character arc he's had. Remember, like you and I are, I guess, right around the same age. So it's like when the War of the Worlds was coming out, and everyone thought he was a quack. And now everyone's like, dude, Tom Cruise, please save Hollywood.
It's wild. Like I've always, I get a lot of shit for this. That doesn't matter. But like, when I watch something, I really do separate the
art from the artist.
Yeah. And I know that he got a lot of shit for his crazy antics, and when I never cared. I always supported the dude. I love his movies. I own
never
them.
Cared either. I was like, oh, an actor's acting crazy. What a freaking shock.
Yeah.
You know?
Unless it's something like extremely harmful and this person is just a piece of dog shit human, then I'm not going to support, you know. But for somebody like him, like, what was the worst that he did? He jumped on a couch.
Yeah. And he was telling people that he doesn't like pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, whatever. That's his prerogative. Like, you know, it is what it is.
I think it's the Scientology thing that threw people through the weird loop. But now I feel like all is forgiven. People are just like, no, I can't wait to go see a Tom Cruise movie. And that's why I say I think he's the last real movie star, because it's like anything he's in, it's still a Tom Cruise movie. Whereas if you go see Avengers, like that's not a Robert Downey Jr. movie. You're going to see the characters, not the actors.
Yeah. I think this is just my personal opinion. I think that there's going to be one more Mission Impossible once the Oscars have now done the whole stunt thing. I cannot see Tom Cruise just going, you know what? I have to get an Oscar for stunts. Right.
And the way that movie ends too, like that was another thing. And these are spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I mean, the movie's been out for a while, but like the end, they're all just standing there looking at each other. I was like, what are they doing? You know, there's no real conclusion to that movie, I guess you could say. So I'm like, I was talking to a guy last week, and he thinks what's going to happen is like, he might hand over the franchise to Glenn Powell in one more movie or something like that. So they can spin off with a different actor. But I mean, maybe there's some validity to that. Glenn Powell kind of seems like the next up and coming dude, the new Tom Cruise.
Yeah. What do you think of him? You like him?
Yeah, I like him. Yeah. I like him. I don't know if he has that Tom Cruise factor, but he's definitely got the good guy looks. He's got some acting chops. I don't know. Did you watch Hitman last year, the Richard Linklater flick?
No. Wait, did I? I don't remember. Was it on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, where he plays all those different characters, the hitman. Yes. And you know, it didn't get like a whole lot of publicity, I guess, but I thought it was a pretty solid film. I mean, it's Richard Linklater, so you know it's probably going to be solid, especially even if it's a Netflix movie.
He's very charming.
Yeah, that's the thing. He kind of has that George Clooney charm, I guess you could say. He's got the acting chops. He's really good looking. Yeah. So I think there's something there with that dude.
And his charm works for both male audiences and female audiences. Yeah. Like women will fall in love with him, and it's just enough for guys to like the dude and almost like put themselves in his shoes. Yeah. You know, it's not like he's a threat, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's not Chris Hemsworth. Like I look at Chris Hemsworth and I'm just like, damn you.
Yeah, you're so good looking. But the thing about Chris Hemsworth that I like is I feel like he's an extremely underrated actor, because he's been given all these like big, macho man roles. Yeah. But he's hilarious. One, he's got really good comic timing. And then two, like when he really needs to push a scene with emotion or something, he's really, really capable of that. And he does it way better than you'd expect someone like him to do.
Yeah. In his interviews, I've noticed that he also doesn't take himself seriously, which is great. I mean, when you're a stud like that and you just are humble pie, like, makes me hate him even more.
Yeah.
The jealousy, the rage.
Yep. And it's like the Chris Pratt thing too. I know that he kind of was in everything, so people were kind of getting sick of him, but I'm always like, he seems like such a likable dude, and I think he's actually a pretty solid actor. I don't really get the hate for him. I mean, I get it when you get too overexposed, people are just going to get tired of you. But like anytime he comes out with a movie, even though the Electric State isn't a good way to gauge the quality of stuff that he puts out, I always think he's really solid in anything that he's in. And he's hilarious too.
He is. He's very funny. I think the only fatigue I've had of anybody in the last 10 years, I'd say, is The Rock.
Oh yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I do not
He's
care.
The Rock in every single movie.
He's literally Dobbs in every single film.
Every single film.
I'm like, what happened? He started off, when he did The Rundown. I mean, The Rundown is incredible. Showed comedic timing, personality. Gridiron Gang was another one where he showed dramatic chops. He had a lot to work with there, and he wasn't trying to do the people's freaking eyebrow.
Yeah. And in The Rundown, he also had like this nervous energy about him, whereas in any movie he's in now, he just delivers his lines the same. All the action scenes are the same. I am, however, intrigued with that new A24 movie coming out. I can't remember the name of it off the top. Where he plays the MMA fighter.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that. I think that there may be something there. At least seems like he's trying to break that mold. I know he's going to be starring in the new Scorsese film with DiCaprio.
That I'm excited for.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see what he actually can do in something like that.
Yeah, and
that's like Vin Diesel in Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah,
you just would never see him do anything else like that.
That was Sidney Lumet did, where he like plays a mafia guy. And he becomes his own attorney for a crime that
Vin Diesel.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's called. I can't remember the name of it. I'll look it up here in a second. But he really showed acting chops, and it was like one of Sidney Lumet's last movies before he died.
Wow.
But yeah, no, he plays like a mafia member. He gets thrown in prison for something he didn't commit. He doesn't hire an attorney. He basically reads up when he's in prison about like all the laws and stuff like that. So he defends himself. Really solid film.
I've never seen it.
But yeah, it's just stuff like that. When you see it, you're like, I know this guy can act. There's something there. Like there's a reason that they became the big names they are, is that they had something there that someone saw. It's just I think they get too comfortable in the roles that are paying them $30 million a movie or whatever, and then they're just like, I'm just gonna make that movie so I can go on this nice trip with my wife or whatever.
I was really excited for The Rock when he did The Rundown, because it was like you could see the torch being passed down. Literally, there's a scene where Arnold comes out of the nightclub as The Rock is walking in, and it's like this passing of the torch of like, have fun in there, it's your turn, or whatever the hell he says to him. And he just goes in, and it's like, oh shit, like he's getting literally respect from one of the biggest names, and now it's you're the guy, you're the new star. And for a while he was like, okay, this is really good. And I think Fast 5 was the peak of The Rock. That was when Dobbs was like this like threat, this absolute menace.
Yep.
And then after that, it just
so weird.
Like, you're still in character.
Yeah, I'm fully expecting them to like come up with superpowers or something in those freaking movies, like something crazy. I mean, they've gone to space. Where else can they go with those?
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't show up in a Charger in Moana too. Like just. I don't know. It's bad.
So one of the people in the chat says it's called Find Me Guilty. That's the Vin Diesel movie. If you ever get a chance, I highly recommend
add that to my watch list.
It's a good film. And it's one of those movies where you're just like, dude, if he just taken more roles like this, like I think people would think of Vin Diesel in such a lukewarm, everyone thinks of him as Triple X or the Fast and Furious movies at this point.
He's my Riddick forever.
Yeah, and Riddick. I mean, I like those movies, all of them. They're guilty pleasures, no doubt.
Pitch Black was really good, though. It
was.
That was actually a movie too that, if we're talking about range, it's not one that you would immediately go, oh yeah, Vin Diesel range, but like he showed a good solid amount of range of that, like being like the tough guy that he is, and then being this like protector of the people that were left alive, and showing weakness in moments, but still maintaining that like strength and like presence that he has, because he was a badass in that movie. Like,
Yeah.
absolute badass. But then you also felt for him, like at the end when he sees the girl that she gets impaled by the creatures, like whatever the hell it is, and she just takes off, and you see the sadness in his eyes because he tried to do his best and he couldn't, in a subtle way. But yeah.
Yep. And there's also a movie he did, I think it was like in the early 2000s, called A Man Apart. Did you ever see that?
No.
It's basically I think he's like a detective or something in LA, and someone sets a hit out on him and they kill his wife, and so he basically just goes, Death Wish, Charles Bronson on their ass in that movie.
I love that.
Yeah, dude, that's a really solid flick too, because he gets shot as well. So like he wakes up in the hospital and finds out that his wife was one of the victims and what happened, and he just like you just see like the pure rage and emotion go inside him, and you're like, yeah, dude, that guy definitely has something there.
It was directed by F. Gary Gray too.
Yeah, F. Gary Gray. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all film. You should check it out. I mean, it's not like the best movie ever made, but there's little things they put in that movie where you're like, oh man, Vin Diesel really did have something that I wish he would have explored more of, instead of doing like the what was that Kindergarten Cop movie that he essentially did for Disney, where you're just like,
The Pacifier.
Yes, The Pacifier. So it was he's just basically Fast and Furious these days. I don't think he really does anything else.
Yeah,
I mean, he doesn't have to, but
he should though.
Yeah, I agree.
For the people.
How do you feel about the state of the movie industry as a whole right now? I mean, I know we're just so in like reboot, requels, sequels, legacy sequels. It's frustrating, but I know you're a big horror movie fan, and it feels like right now has been some of the best time for horror movies in a long time. They seem to have struck gold with their low budget movies, only to make a lot of money. Even if they don't make a lot of money, they all seem to make their money back and then some. So I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Horror movies have always thrived and will always thrive, regardless of what the hell may be happening in the industry. And it's because of the fact that you can make something really successful for $0.
Yeah, pennies.
And studios know that it's a great investment when you have a movie that you can make for $1 million and have a return of just $7-10 million. You get people that are putting out shorts that they become feature-length films, and they go on to make other movies. They did that with Mama. They did that with Lights Out.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many movies that were just shorts originally. And I'm seeing a lot now with a lot of, I hate the word, but these influencers taking advantage of the horror, I guess, community.
The Philippou brothers are the great examples of that.
Yeah, but I don't see them as like, I don't see these guys as like taking advantage of that community. Like, these guys were, I mean, they were creating for so many years. The Raka Raka, that channel has produced so much quality. I've been following them for a long time. My wife's Australian, so I was introduced to them when I was in Australia, was in their hometown, and one of the locals was like, Raka Rakas, and I'm like, I have no idea what the hell that is. Like a fruit? What is that? Yeah. And this is when their channel was like nothing. I mean, I think they had under like 5,000 subs at this point.
Wow.
So they were tiny. But yeah, like I recently saw a new film that I think is going on Shudder, and it features 2 girls that are influencers. They're both comedians.
I saw the trailer for that. I went and saw Dangerous Animals the other day, and I was like, aren't those 2 girls YouTubers?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So it seems like, that's kind of the route a lot of these YouTubers are going.
So when I see that, I'm like, they see it too. They see the value in doing something like this because the return's great. They probably spent nothing doing that. They have their own camera equipment. They already film themselves, they're vloggers, whatever the case is, and they just get somebody to edit, add some sound, and whatever the case is. I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really speak on it. But when I see that, I'm like, it's a great time for horror. It's a great time for independent films.
Agree.
Recently with Anora. Anora's another one that's like, this guy stuck to his guns, and they didn't sell out. They went ahead and did this on their own. They had Neon, I think it was, right, that invested in them.
Yeah, I believe so.
Right.
Yeah,
And I
think so.
mean, they won a freaking Academy Award. Like,
yeah, surprisingly, that kind of, I mean, towards the end of the run, I think that didn't surprise many people, but for a time there, it was between The Brutalist and what was the other movie? Oh, Amelia Perez.
Yeah,
which I mean, I couldn't. If Amelia Perez won, I mean, outside of all the controversy that was happening with that movie, if that had won Best Picture, I would have been like, dude, people, this is why no one takes Hollywood seriously anymore.
Pretty much. But when you see that, like, I think just people are so like they consume so much of like the mainstream stuff, they forget that there is so much more out there. There's so much.
There really is
cinema, and you just kind of got to step away from it. Like if a lot of people just say Hollywood sucks these days, well then go and watch foreign films. There is so much out there. There's so much out there. There's a new Dracula coming out that is not a American Dracula. It's a French film. It's Luc Besson's directing it.
Oh, really? I didn't even know about this.
Like, it comes out, I think, at the end of this month, I want to say. And like,
is it a streaming movie or is it going to the theaters?
I think it's going in theaters in France.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll probably come out streaming here at some point. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's so much out there, and it's like when you interact with certain posts and you keep getting the same posts thrown at you in your feed, right? It's like, well, you interact with that.
Yep.
The
algorithm.
That's why it's being fed to you. Yeah. So if you're consuming only like the mainstream stuff, you're going to be pissed off by the end of the week because everything that you love is getting remade or rebooted or whatever.
I know. I just saw that they're trying to reboot Shawshank Redemption, and I was like, no, you don't touch perfection. What are you doing?
Well, I used to be really like angry about like reboots, remakes, and all that. And I understand why many of us are, because we have a very special, they're great movies, and we in our eyes know that they are perfect films and we don't want them to be touched. But then I also look at like my kids and I'm like, I'm not the audience, and I have to come to terms with that. Yeah. I'm no longer the target audience. I'm not that, this isn't for me, and my time's expired. Like I'm out the door. That's the reality of it. When I see these Disney remakes and Snow White and this whole issue with that movie, right? Yeah. But my daughter saw the trailer. She really wanted to see it, and she didn't really enjoy the animated original.
I get it.
She just didn't, and it's like, damn, I can't complain about this. This isn't for me. And these companies, that's what they're all about. They're about making money, whether we like it or not. That's all it is. So you can yell, you can type it all on your keyboard as much as you want and post about it, but we're not the audience anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I see totally what you're saying. I think there's certain movies that, like Shawshank Redemption, does that really need to be remade? That's a movie that's out there. It's like, where could you really go to improve it or to make it more interesting? I mean, that movie's there. But if you're going to remake something from the 80s, that even has a big following, like, I totally get that. It makes sense. Like, they're even doing the How to Train Your Dragon. I saw that the other day, and it's like, it's kids are going to like it. There's a lot of kids that watch cartoons and they want to see the live action version of it. Like, my kids are all thrilled to go watch it. So yeah, there's definitely an audience for that. And I totally get what you mean.
And that's not to say that there are certain ones that shouldn't exist. Like, we know that there are certain ones that really, like you have to stretch before you do that kind of reaching. You just don't, you're going to pull a muscle from all that. Like this Shawshank Redemption being one of them. I think Cabin Fever was one that I remember when they announced the reboot. I'm like, what?
Yeah. That one's
so
weird.
Odd.
Yeah, that one's odd because it's like that movie's not that old.
No, and not for nothing, but if you watch it, it's frame for frame the exact same movie.
I never saw it.
The only difference is there's none of Eli Roth's comedic, weirdness to it. That's it. And I'm like, why? And he produced it. I'm like, I'm so confused. Yeah. Did you need to like get rid of that money? What was it? Like, you could have just donated that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That
I've always liked the train of thought that rebooting a movie that was maybe bad or didn't do as well, like that to me would kind of make sense. Like, you reboot it and make it badass. And they've done that with some movies. But for the most part, like if you're going to remake Point Break, it's like, well, the reason that movie's such a cult classic is because of Keanu and Patrick Swayze. So if you're going to reboot it with different guys, and even it could be a badass movie, but which it wasn't. That was the problem with that one, is it just sucked. But
have you seen a reboot or remake that was actually really damn good, but suffered because it was known as a reboot or remake?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm sure I have. I can't think of any off the top of my head. How about you? You got one that comes to mind?
If we're going back to horror, I would have to say The Wrong Turn.
Yeah.
Movie.
And you know what? Now that you say horror, I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, the 2003 Jessica Biel one. That movie, I remember at the time, I think Roger Ebert gave it like 0 stars, and the critics just shat all over it. But I look back on that movie and go, man, that's one of the best reboots, I think, of like any movie ever. I think I actually prefer the 03 to the original Tobe Hooper classic.
I do.
It's blasphemy, but that's how I feel.
And then
the Friday the 13th remake that Marcus Nispel, who also directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I thought that one was freaking awesome. It stands in the pantheon of all the other Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at like Friday the 13th, I get shit on this all the time. I made a TikTok about it. And of course, real fan. Yeah. How dare you say, shut up. I love all of them. You know, I recently talked about how my house in Jersey, I live 30 minutes away from Camp Crystal Lake. So I've been to Camp Crystal Lake. I've been there with the actors from the original. I've been there with Tom Savini, like on a Friday the 13th of all days too, you know, like,
oh, wow. That's cool.
I'm a big fan of Friday the 13th, but I can also look at them and step aside and go, you know, they're pretty fucking dated movies. They're still bangers. I still enjoy them, but they're pretty dated. When you look at the remake, I mean, that shit it took from all of them.
Yeah.
And it was fresh and it hit. It was violent. It was fun. You know, it had all of that.
And that Jason was perfect. The version of Jason in that one was perfect. I'm surprised they didn't make a sequel or anything with that. I mean, I know I was talking to another big horror guy, and we both equally hated the Nightmare on Elm Street. But my thing was like, I appreciate what they tried to do. They tried to make it a little bit different. There was just some really, it didn't necessarily thrive with me, but I thought some of the dream sequences were actually pretty freaking awesome in that movie. Just as a whole, it wasn't quite to the same level, but you could see the potential there. And it's crazy to me that the family is just kind of sitting on the rights to that movie and they won't let them touch it. Because if they were to reboot that now, I bet you they can make a freaking kick-ass version of that franchise.
Yes, but there's this fear like that I have. Like I'm one of those rare ones that actually enjoyed the remake. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. I did enjoy the fact that it was just its own thing. It didn't try to like just basically copy and paste, you know, Robert Englund's performance. Like it really wanted to separate itself in that sense. Yes, it's still Freddy Krueger, but we're getting a whole different take on him, right? The only thing for me that was just a pain in the ass was watching that scene where Nancy's in the bed and he comes out from the wall.
Yeah.
And seeing just how horrible CGI ruins that scene. And I'm like, what is the excuse when a film in the 80s was able to do this practically?
Yeah.
And it didn't take away. It maybe took a little bit more time, but it looks beautiful. You know, it doesn't take away from anything.
Yeah.
And that to me that was the concerning part. So like from that scene alone, my fear is that whoever directs this, like if they get the guy that directed the It remakes, I'm not going to go see it. Like whatever his name is, Andy Muschietti or
the Italian
the dude lives CGI. Like
too much. Like the Flash movie, I know a lot of people glaze that movie, but the CGI was so,
it's awful.
It was so bad in that movie, and like I know he tried to defend it and stuff, but I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
And Ezra Miller's one of those dudes that I know we're talking about separating the art from the artist. I really had a hard time like watching him in that movie, just knowing what an absolute just, you know, scumbag that guy is outside of that movie.
Yeah, I didn't even know anything until after the movie.
Yeah.
Because I came out like enjoying the movie for what it was and just me seeing Batman back, and it was just nostalgic, you know. But then afterwards I'm like, what the hell is everybody talking about this dude? And I went and like did a whole, you know, research on him. I was like, oh, this guy's a problem. This guy's a real problem. And it just kind of put a bad taste in my mouth for sure.
Yeah. I got this guy, Hector Tapia. He says he just finished one, The Color Purple. It wasn't horror, but in my opinion, a remake which stands out from the original by a mile. I don't know. Did you watch the Color Purple remake? I know it was a musical. I never got a chance to check that one out, but I've heard good things.
I have not actually own it. I was gifted to me, and I still haven't seen it yet. So Hector, I might just watch that.
Yeah, actually, I think I might do that too. My daughter's really into musicals. My oldest, so I might.
Is it appropriate? Is there anything inappropriate there for young ones?
Well, in the original, the Spielberg one, there definitely is, but I'm not sure about the musical. I think it was a PG or PG-13. So, how old are your kids?
6 and 3.
Yeah, probably for the 3-year-old, it might not be the.
Hector gives great recommendations. He's a mutual on Instagram and TikTok, and he's got phenomenal recommendations. So I trust him whenever he says, to watch something.
Yeah, it's PG-13. So yeah, I mean, that's just kind of up to your discretion. But I never watched that. That's a good recommendation. I might actually have to go see it. At the time it came out, I remember there was just so many movies that that was one that just flew by, and I didn't get a chance to check it out. But I did hear good things. So like I was talking to Cody Leach. I had him on here, and we were talking about how he thinks right now is kind of like the golden age of horror. And I was like, I agree with that. I think one of the things too is that like nowadays it's so easy there's so much horror content that comes out that a lot of it just kind of falls by the wayside. So it doesn't, you don't really see the, I guess, longevity of a lot of these franchises like a Scream or a Nightmare on Elm Street or the ones that we were just talking about previously. But yeah, it seems like a good model for any movie to want to take now. Like, and I harp on it all the time, the comedy movie, like I miss them. The comedy movie, and like Friendship, I thought was a great kind of segue into like, let's bring comedies back. And there's that series on Netflix called Tires, which is freaking hilarious.
Love
if
it.
anybody gets a chance to watch it. It's so funny, man, because it's just like, it's one of those shows that's not afraid to be canceled. It makes some jokes that some would deem, like cancelable or whatever, but they're just like, whatever. They're just telling a funny story, and it's hilarious. So I'm kind of encouraged seeing it, but I was like, if they just take a page off of the horror movie playbook, they could really resurge the movie industry and the comedy department, because there's nothing like, I saw Friendship in a packed theater and people were cracking up in the theater like I haven't seen in years. And I was like, see, this is like one of the things I miss most about going to the movie theaters. It's just that like overall community experience where you're not getting annoyed with the dude who's scrolling on his phone the whole time you're watching a horror movie. Or like, I saw Dangerous Animals last week and on opening day, and a couple walked in with a baby. I'm like, what is happening? Like you just get I get so annoyed at the theater anymore. But yeah, it's just I feel like comedy has like it laid out right there. They have the template. Just go that route, and I guarantee it'll garner enough buzz that people want to go to the theater and watch it.
Yeah, we need another Superbad. We need another
100%.
kind of one of those, like just raunchy. I think the last one that was like really raunchy but got like a lot of flack was the Jennifer Lawrence film.
The one where she has like that big nude scene at the beach or whatever. Yeah.
But she's like basically like preying on this young kid, and people were like, "Oh, but if it was a guy and this was a girl in the reverse roles, this would be problematic, right?" But because it's a girl, like it just became this whole thing. I'm like, can we just enjoy it for what it is? Like, it's just a movie. It's a comedy.
I have Tom Pranks here. What's up, Tom? He comes on usually every week, but he said he thought the Karate Kids Legends was pretty good, but the pacing was way too fast and they rush it. And that's my biggest complaint about the movie. I took my son who's 9. He absolutely loved it. But I watched the movie and I was like, man, they set up a lot of things in this movie and they just like completely ignored it just so they could get to the end. And it doesn't really, it's almost like they could have like either they cut a bunch of scenes out that could have like maybe explained a little bit more, with the whole Joshua. Did you watch it?
I have not. I'm supposed to go today, but
okay. So there's not a lot of fluff in the movie, which I guess is nice. It's not a long movie. I think it's maybe like an hour and a half. But they set up like a bunch of these side stories and then they just never address them. But it definitely plays off the nostalgia of the old Karate Kid movies. And, I put out my review and said it was like, I didn't hate it. There's some people that hate that movie, but I thought it was fine. It just, like you said, it was way too fast paced and it missed a lot of opportunity. And they didn't really capitalize on the Cobra Kai success, I guess. You know, like they do bring in Ralph Macchio, but I was like, dude, this dude seems like he's just here to collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
Like I don't even really know what he's doing in this movie.
Yeah.
So other than the nostalgia pull,
I'm a big fan of the Jaden Smith one. So
are you really?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I've recently rewatched it because I wanted to show it to my daughter, and I still liked it. I still think it's Jaden Smith at that time. He could act.
Yeah,
he was a little kid. He was doing his thing.
And
it
Mr.
was fun.
Hong was a pretty decent little
Jackie Chan still in it.
Yeah,
the martial arts was dope. You know, they got to show more of like what it's like over in China, and it was cool. I enjoyed it. Whatever, judge me.
Yeah, I know it's funny because it's like, you know, I put out reviews and sometimes you get responses from people where they're just like, you're an idiot, you know. I think I saw you post something on Instagram where you're just like, if you're gonna resort to name calling just because you don't agree with a certain take, it's like the problem's you, not us.
Yeah.
But I kind of find it funny because, you know, some of the comments that I get, I'm just like, dude, I don't even know if this is a real person or if it just like found the algorithm and some bot factory in India is just shooting a bunch of shit my way.
I've been called an inbred for liking certain movies. I don't know how that works. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I don't care, dude. I'm too old to be called names on the internet and get offended.
That's the thing I was explaining to my daughter. I was like, look, the reason I don't let you hear on social media, I was like, it's not because I don't trust you. It's because I know how the internet is. I was around before the internet was here, and then I grew up with it. You know, like during like those peak internet really took off when I was a teenager into my late teen years. And I was like, I remember how it was, and now I know how it is. And it's like, I don't get affected by this stuff like you do. I was like, but I know plenty of adults that can't handle it at all.
Yeah.
You know, people my age, they take those comments to heart, or, you know, whatever someone's calling them, whether they're insulting their looks or whatever. I was like, but for a 12-year-old girl, if, you know, someone's making fun of the way they look or something like that, like that's impossible for you not to look at and take that, like internalize that sort of stuff, when that's just the way the internet is.
Absolutely. I just find it funny when people argue about like movies and really like just, let's call it passion.
Sure.
I'm like, whatever. Like, did you buy it for me? Did you pay me, you know, for me to go see this movie? Like, I don't understand what I owe you. If I like it, I like it. And that's okay that you don't like it. Like, I can't imagine how stressful your life has to be that you are so worried about how I felt about a movie, or the fact that I didn't enjoy it. You know, I call them dick riders. You know, it's just a lot of dick riding, for a lot of different, you know, directors or movies you can't speak ill of.
Sure.
I call them the egg beaters. Robert's, Mr. Nosferatu, the director. So I call them all egg beaters.
The egg beaters. I like that. That's a good term.
Because you can't say one negative thing about, you know, I talked about Nosferatu. I remember saying I did this review, and it was on my Chino Does Movies account. So you know where like certain things go. I just did this review where I thought, you know, from a objective point of view, the film is brilliant. You know,
sure.
I just think that he lacks in character development. I just think that it's not the best when it comes to characters. I don't care about his characters.
He's a lot of style.
Yeah. And I remember saying to my wife, I was like, damn, I just saw a scene, spoiler alert, where, you know, the homie shows up to the house, kills 2 little girls.
And you felt nothing.
And I felt zero. I'm a father of 2 girls.
Yeah.
I feel everything when I watch movies.
Sure.
Right.
Especially when you have kids.
I felt nothing, dude.
Yeah.
Nothing. It looked cool though, right?
Yeah.
The silhouette, the girls' bodies, but I felt nothing. It's okay.
I heard someone say that he's essentially Wes Anderson, except instead of like a, you know, really advanced color palette with all the pastels and whatnot, it's just black. Because the thing about his movies is like they're so dark, but they're real rich. You're not like, remember that Game of Thrones episode when it came out and everyone's like, I can't see what's happening. His movie, you can see everything that's happening. It's gorgeous, but there's definitely an argument there too that there's not a whole lot of substance to his stuff.
Yeah,
I love Nosferatu because have you seen the original 1922 film? It's essentially the same exact movie, just, you know, with Robert Eggers' sort of nice finishing touch on it. but I totally get it. I think when I reviewed the movie, I said, look, there's going to be people that hate this movie. Like I got an early screener for it and watched it. And I was like, yeah, no, I think it's really, really solid. And then I saw it again on opening day because I wanted to see it on the big screen. And I swear like 5 to 10 people walked out of the movie. So I was like, I get it. Like Robert Eggers is not for everybody.
And I enjoyed it. I really did. And I enjoyed it for the experience. I enjoyed it for the visuals. I think it's a beautiful movie that I would love to rewatch, to just study cinematography as a whole. Just like, you can really learn from it. But I don't, I don't think the movie is as, people hate using this, but it's as deep as it is. And people lose their minds. And that to me is hilarious. I'm like, bro, chill.
Yeah.
Just go on with your life. They have to type something negative. Yeah. Your face looks like mashed potato.
Yeah.
Yep. Like, shut up, dude.
Do you ever get accused of being a paid reviewer? I get that all the time, especially if I like a movie that somebody just hated. It's like it's so funny. They're like, oh, how much they pay you to say that? I'm like, I don't know, man. I wish whatever they paid me, it wasn't enough because I gave it a 7 out of 10, which isn't the best review ever.
Chris, I'm not on your level. Okay. Listen, the day that I get called out, I will message you, be like,
yes, please do.
I haven't made it. I'm a nobody in this space. All right. So
well, hey, you caught my attention. So like
for me,
I notice you.
People are like, I always actually talk about, like, I do a lot of reviews on my Chino Collects account where I buy certain things and I say, is it worth it? Is it worth this price? And I always say how I will never get anything for free because I can't lie about it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Like I just can't do it. I can't come to terms with it. And I will look at the camera and I'll say, I paid for this with my own money. This was not worth it. This is not worth this price. I'd say pay this for it, but it is not this, or vice versa. I think I shit on one of the Terrifiers, the Amazon Collector's Edition. It was like $150, and you got like a bar of soap and a barf bag. And I'm like, what the hell? And the only reason I got it was because I forgot to cancel the order. So now I got stuck with it, and I'm like, might as well make a review on it. Oh man, the amount of messages that I got from people so angry at me for shitting on their Terrifier 3.
Their beloved Terrifier.
I'm like, hey assholes, I love the movie. I just don't think this is worth the price. Like, relax.
And that's my thing is I've had some people on in the film industry here, and they're afraid to, they'll watch my reviews or something, and they're like, how do you feel about, how hard it is to make a movie? Do you feel like that's not a fair way to assess it? And I said, from my perspective, I think I'm doing a disservice to the movie if they put out a shit product and I don't tell other people. If you work hard and you spend $20 to go to the movie theater to watch this piece of shit, like why would I not? I don't want a hardworking person who's like wants to go to the theater to see something good because they're whatever, they got 3 kids, their life is hectic, they want to go to escape for a couple hours, and then they go waste their time with this movie. I was like, I feel like that does a huge disservice to not only the movie to say, hey, be better, and then to the people where it's like, hey, go watch something else. Like, don't waste your time with this. I did this so you don't have to. And then I had that guy on again, and he goes, you know what? I think that's the right perspective to have, because he was just like, he was giving just real milquetoast sort of reviews on movies because he didn't want to upset anybody essentially in the industry. And I said, I think that's the wrong perspective. Like, I'm not going to, I've actually had a little company that puts premieres out, and they reached out to me and were like, hey, we'll send you this stuff, but we really want you to say this talking point. And I was like, no, I'm not interested, because I feel like I do a service for people that like my content, that I'm going to be honest with them. And if I'm lying about a movie that I didn't think was good, then I do a huge disservice to everybody, and myself included.
Especially when you're building a community. Like, that's one of the biggest things I pride myself on is I may not have the, craziest amount of followers or anything like that, but I think the people that follow me do know that I am a certain way. And even when they don't agree, they still can respect my decision. And that's all I ask for. Because that's the same that I would do for somebody else. Like, I respect what somebody else says, despite me not agreeing with them. You can put a review out on a movie and say that this is the greatest thing ever, and I'll be like, the movie sucked ass. But hey, man, to each their own, bro. Like, glad you liked it. So when I do something, or I put a review out, or I get a screener sent to me, I'm never just giving out positivity just for the sake of it. Like, I
Yeah.
think people can really tell, and that transparency goes a long, long way.
Right.
Back to Wes Anderson,
Yeah.
real quick.
Go ahead.
Fun fact: I've only seen one of his movies,
Really? Which one?
Rushmore, and
Okay.
that was enough for me to go never again.
Really?
Yeah,
Interesting. I
yeah,
love Rushmore, but
yeah.
like you said, to each their own. But see, the
I've
thing,
watched his trailers or any movies that he comes out, even with that new one that's coming out,
yeah, the
and I'm
Phoenician
like,
Scheme.
this is a Wes Anderson movie, isn't it? I
Yep.
could just, and it's just not my thing.
Well, and that's the thing with Wes Anderson, because I think Rushmore is one of his more non-Wes Anderson looking type movies. Didn't have a lot of the weird aspects that he's kind of gone on these days. But Rushmore and Bottle Rocket, which were like his two earlier movies, I think are more digestible for big audiences. So I totally get it though. Like I've seen pretty much all his movies, and I didn't I had a chance to go see the Phoenician Scheme this week, and I wasn't interested at all. It just wasn't grabbing me. And I think I'm at that point too now where I used to just go watch everything and review it, and I was like, I'm a dad of 3. Like I don't want to just go see every single movie if I don't have to. So yeah, I think picking and choosing is becoming more apropos in my daily life, because I love movies. The reason I started this whole thing is like, I went to film school. I wanted to be a filmmaker at one point in time. I work in the industry, and I've always had like just a deep like wealth of knowledge and love for this industry, and I don't want that to be stripped away. I was talking to some critics, and I'm like, do you ever just sit back and watch something and not think, oh, I'm going to make a bunch of content about this? You just sit back and enjoy it. And almost every one of them is like, yeah, that's kind of one of the casualties in doing this, is that I have to watch something and make thoughts and put a video out about it. And I was like, I don't really like that. There's a lot of stuff I like to watch that it's just my thing. Like my wife and I are watching Cheers right now, and it's like I just sit back and enjoy watching a show from a time long gone.
Yeah.
And it's a fun thing to do. So I don't want to just always go out of my way to watch something so I have to review it just for the sake of content. I think that's a healthier perspective from my side of things.
I agree. That's one of the reasons why I know that I will never truly be successful in this space.
Yeah,
because I already know that from very early on, that I don't feel the need to, and I know that I have to in order to really get my name out there.
sure.
And I just don't care to. Like,
Yeah.
I want to watch a movie, sit down, and just enjoy it. The only reason I have Letterboxd is to hold myself accountable, because for 2-3 years, I went through like a really, really bad depression, and I stopped watching movies, which is like the one thing that made me kind of get out of that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to hold myself accountable here. Like, I can't go back to that. And I want to make sure that I am watching movies. So when I see that number go up, I'm like, hell yeah, like I'm actually doing it for myself again. It's never for reviews. It's never for that. And I know that, I see a lot of these guys, man, they just immediately have to watch everything with very different point of view and just sit there and, put the video out and pretend like there's so much to say about this, when a lot of times these movies are just like, yeah, it was okay.
Yeah. There's not always like I said, I watched Dangerous Animals the other day, and I had a full review I filmed and was going to put out, but I was like, yeah, I watched that movie with my niece, who's a little bit older, and we both enjoyed it. But I was like, there's plenty of other people that have said what they need to say about this movie. I don't think I need to put mine out there.
Yeah.
So I'm just being a little bit more picky and choosy, I guess, with what I'm putting out these days. I think that's kind of where I've settled on. I'm more comfortable doing that. I'm more interested in like kind of doing deep dives into movies for my YouTube channel. If I'm being honest, I find that more interesting. Just kind of different perspectives. I know that one of the guys, Hector, also said that he really liked the new Wolfman. He said it tugged at his dad's string hearts. I personally didn't really care that much for that movie, but I totally see what he's saying, where it tugged at his dad's strings. Like that movie did. My biggest gripe with the movie is I love Julia Garner as an actress, but I thought she was so miscast in that role. I wasn't really buying her I really wasn't buying her as a nurturing, loving mom, and it seemed weird for her to be in that position. But how'd you feel about it?
So it's funny you say that, because that is the one thing that stands out to me the most about the movie.
Yeah.
She's very cold.
Yes.
And I think that was the point of it. It wasn't until my second viewing, because I really loved the movie the first time around, still not liking her character, right? I thought the biggest weakness in the film was her.
Yeah.
Because I felt the same way. I'm like, she's just not believable. Also, she looks like she could be the husband's like daughter. That was another thing that just felt really weird.
She felt real out of place
looks
in that
very
movie.
young, and she almost acted very young. But I'm like, that's the point. That is the whole point of that character. These two are so far apart because when we meet them, their relationship is not good. She is cold. She doesn't know how to be a mom. She has disassociated herself with all of that. How to even be a wife. She doesn't even remember how to be a wife.
Right.
So the real tragedy in the film for me personally is seeing the husband do everything in his power to salvage the marriage, be a dad, but then you turn into the monster that is essentially going to hurt the one you love the most. And in the end, you've lost everything.
Yeah.
And we are left with a woman who isn't really grateful to be a mom. She's not really grateful to be a wife. Does she really feel bad? Is she really all that broken up about the fact that her husband is now gone? And even when she defends her daughter at the end, does she defend her daughter is it a motherly instinct, or is it at a survival for her own self? So it like kind of opens it up in a very different way. And it made me really kind of look at it from that perspective the second time around. I love that movie. And with Hector saying, that like the dad heartstrings, like when he says that one line to her, how like we become the same thing that we're essentially, I'm butchering this, but he's like, we become the monsters that we are trying to protect you from, or something like that.
Yeah, because he had that.
I just remember that single tear, the dramatic single tear on my end. Like, I'm like, oh man. Yeah. And then at the end, I'm just like watching him like die. And when his daughter says something to him, and we get to see that moment where it shows the perspective of what he hears, right? And it sounds all muffled, but then there's a moment of clarity because the love and the bond that those two had somehow broke through for a split second and still was allowed to be, communicated to him. Right. I thought that was so beautiful. So I agree. Yeah, it definitely, watch it a second time and look at it that way, and really look at her character as like just this, I don't know, exactly how you feel about her. And I feel like that's what Lee Whannell was kind of going for with it.
I think that's totally fair. I mean, there's other issues I had with it. I actually thought the character design of the wolf was pretty cool. I like the old Lon Chaney feel. I know a lot of people crapped on that. They said they looked like essentially just some tweaked out meth heads, but which I saw a little bit of that. I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, it's fine, whatever. But yeah, no, I think you're onto something there. That's a pretty good perspective to approach the movie from. I'm always down to watch a movie again. And like, I didn't hate that. It's just, I like Lee Whannell a lot as a director. Yeah. And I felt like there was a lot of parts in that movie that didn't really resonate as strongly. I think it was just a script thing, but overall, like I left and said, yeah, it's fine. I didn't hate it. Like there's some people that really dunked on that movie, but I definitely didn't hate it. I have someone here who says, why do people always hate on Liam Neeson action movies like The Commuter, Honest Thief, Taken 2, and Memory? He says he thinks they're pretty decent. So that's actually a thing of mine. Like I actually have a huge guilty pleasure, and I don't know if they should be guilty pleasure for those Liam Neeson action movies. I think people crap on him so much is because they know what kind of actor Liam Neeson is from, like Schindler's List and Rob Roy and some of those older movies where he was really putting out these powerful performances, only to just kind of be typecast as the old dude in these action movies. But one of my favorite movies of all time is The Gray. And that's a movie when I first saw it, I was just like, whatever. I just kind of moved on with my life. I thought it was okay. And then I watched it again when I was getting into my late 30s. And man, it hit me like a whole different ton of bricks. Like that movie really, really completely changed my perspective on that movie. And now it's at one of my like top 10 movies. I absolutely love that movie. And his speech at the end where he's, yelling at God and like really having that moment where he's going to have the showdown with the wolves at the end. I think that's one of the most powerful scenes in movie history. I don't know how you feel about that movie, because that's definitely another one of those movies that I think a lot of people didn't like a lot when it first came out, but now the time's passed and people have really had time to digest and watch that movie over and over again. They're kind of coming to that same conclusion.
So Liam Neeson's The Gray is one of my top 10 favorite films of all time.
Love it.
at this point in time, I think the movie came out was like 2010 or 2011. I want to say,
yeah, 2011. Yeah,
and at this point in time, I was still single. I still didn't have kids, none of that. So I had a lot of time to consume movies, and I was also consuming a lot of physical media. So when the movie came out, and when I watched the special features, there's stuff in there that is really heavy, particularly because his wife had passed away.
Yes.
It wasn't, I believe it was like 2 years prior to the filming of this.
That's why he made that movie.
And that's why he made that movie.
Yep.
There is a lot of stuff that I learned from watching the special features on that, and also the commentary on it, that when you rewatch the movie again, knowing all of these things, that movie goes from just your standard action flick to this complete artistic, like, just the whole thing is set up to a point where, like, this man, basically it was a therapy session. We're watching somebody go through real grief. When he's reading that suicide letter,
dude,
he's channeling his wife. Like, Joe Carnahan had told him, this is something that we're going to clear the room. You're going to sit here with me and we're going to read this. And he literally was channeling his wife, reading that note. And you see it. You see it.
There's a broken man right there.
Yeah. And, like, that movie speaks very close to me too. I told you that I went through a little bit of depression.
Sure.
Without getting too into it, there's a lot of parallels to my life with his.
Sure.
Let's just put it at that. And except I didn't encounter any wolves, so
out for that.
But there's just something really heavy about that, because it's real. It's not. There's a point where it's just not acting. Yeah. And it's. I mean, bravo to him to be willing to go through that, be willing to put himself in that environment. He really went for it. He was in those waters. Yeah. He did it all. Like,
dude, his performance in that is unbelievable. And there's a scene in that movie that always particularly stands out to me. It's after the plane crash and they see that dude and he's bleeding out. Mm-hmm. And in like 99% of movies, they're like, oh yeah, no, don't worry, you're gonna be okay, even though they know the character's dying. And he straight up looks at the guy just man to man and goes, you're gonna die. Like, you're dying. There's nothing we can do. Lay back, try not to worry too much about it, just let it overcome you. And he just stays with the dude as he slowly bleeds out, gets lightheaded and dies. And I remember sitting there thinking, and I was like, man, this movie is so not what a Hollywood movie is. There's no big moments, like you think everyone's going to get out alive here. You think everyone's going to, there's going to be some big break that they have, and just like nothing that you think that it subverts expectations in every aspect of that movie. And then at the end, when he just finally knows that he's trapped and he's just going to go out. And then it flashes back to the scene with his wife and the scenes with his dad and that saying that's up there, that little poem that he dude, I've never had a movie in my life where I've watched it the first time and was just like, whatever, I was in my 20s when it came out, and then watched it again as, you start getting a little bit older, a little closer to middle age. You start thinking a little bit more about death and things of that nature. Just a movie that impacted me so greatly like that. I think for us guys, like us millennials, where we're getting a little bit older and those things start to hit home a little bit closer, watching that movie, I can't recommend it to men enough, especially when you're getting a little bit older. Just put that movie on and have it just just become a part of it. And it's almost like, I don't want to say life-changing. I think that's a little bit hyperbolic or dramatic, but it just changes a lot about how I viewed a certain movie and how I think about certain things too, which I think is the amazing impact that movies can have.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it's a very inspiring movie, especially for seeing like his character arc, go from somebody who was basically just willing to give it all up. Yep. And then
he's about to kill himself at the beginning, and by the end he's fighting for every ounce of life that he has left.
It's wild.
That's a
cool
I
respect that, and I know what that feels like. It's like shit. What do you think of the little bonus at the end?
I always like that. It's a cool little Easter egg. Before Marvel was doing it with every single movie. The little gimmick that
a lot of people don't know this, but at the end of the gray, Iron Man shows up.
Yeah. Yep.
And just grabs them and takes them off. Yeah.
No, I know that some people are like, oh, like, does that mean he survived? And I'm like, no, I think it's just showing both of them dying, like, together.
That's exactly it.
Like two of the biggest warriors right there, that they completed their battle, like their mission,
and they're taking their last
each
breath.
took each other. Yep, taking their last breaths.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Actor said the Grey's borderline a horror movie. Definitely has horror elements,
dude. That scene when they're out in the dark and you just hear the wolves all around, and then he puts the flare up into the sky, and you see all those wolves' eyes just kind of light up. That definitely has some cool horror elements for sure.
And not for nothing, it's one of those movies that feels there's a 80s quality to it with the characters. Like, I feel like late 80s, early 90s had movies where the supporting cast, there was something really likable about all of them, or there was something very memorable about all of them.
Right.
And I feel like with the characters that they had, the survivors that were left, like even Frank Grillo's character, like they all had certain things about them that made them, it made you want to root for them individually, right?
Yeah, sure.
Even though they were still pieces of shit for the most part.
Well, they're just prisoners, or not, like, essentially they'd be in prison if they weren't out working. Whatever they were working on.
And that's, I feel like that's like, I don't see that a lot anymore, where you care for the supporting cast as much as you used to,
especially in horror movies. Like, that's one of the things. Like, that's actually kind of why I like the new Final Destination movie so much. I mean, I didn't think it was like a masterpiece, and I don't think it's deserving of the 95% score it has on Rotten Tomatoes. I thought that was crazy.
95%. Wow.
95%. But I did like the aspect of that movie where each character was likable.
Yeah.
The Final Destination movies became a gimmick at a point, and you're just like, I can't wait to see this next person die. And in this one, I was kind of like, I don't want any of these people to die. I want to see them fight death and win in the end.
So what's so interesting about Final Destination is the fact that if you look back at the first one, it was straight up horror. Death is actually present. You see death multiple times in the movie. But one of the things that I never saw them do again, which I don't understand why they didn't continue with this, is that death made certain things happen on purpose, and then remove them. When he kills the dude in the shower,
and then
that
the water
leak
goes
in the
away,
bathroom,
it looked like he killed himself. I always wondered why they never did that too. That made death much more interesting in that aspect.
I was like, what the hell's going on? And you thought Tony Todd's character was obviously tied somehow. Is he death himself? Like, there was all these like questions lingering. And then I think part 2 was the one that kind of just pushed it into this whole other like
it turned it
stratosphere.
Up to
And it was like, it was fun, but it was too fun. Like, there was funny moments in Final Destination. There was shock and awe moments. We all laughed out of nervousness when the girl got hit by the bus. Like, it was like, oh, like, it's like, haha, she got hit by a bus. It's like, holy shit, right? They inserted that scene where he drops the Alka-Seltzer in the water after test screenings because people couldn't stop talking after the scene where she gets hit by the bus, and people missed a lot of dialogue. So they realized we need to add something in there to give people time to kind of, loosen up a little bit and get back to it. But overall, like, even Scott, what's his face? Stifler, right?
Sean William Scott.
Thank you, Sean William Scott. Like, his character, naturally, we're expecting some humor. He was the comic relief in the movie. When he dies, that was like a moment like, oh, damn. But it still took itself seriously, like 100%. The 2 cops, they had little humor, little moments, but it was never full blown, slapstick. And I feel like that's what they've become since. And watching the new one, it's the closest that we got to part 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
Like, that's my ranking of them. If I had to look at the whole franchise, I love part 1. Part 2 is second for me. Will always be second. And then Bloodlines is number 3 for me.
That's exactly my order.
And the only reason for part 2 being number 2 still is because it's the only movie to date that actually made me feel nauseous when I was watching the opening scene with the car accident. I actually I've never felt that. I've seen so much horror. I've seen horrendous things, but there was something about how raw and brutal that opening was. I got nauseous in the theater. I don't know what the hell happened.
I think I'd been driving for like a year or two when that movie came out, when Final Destination 2 came out. So it was like, that really stuck with me. And to this day, 20 plus years later, I'm still white knuckling it if I see a truck that has anything carrying it on the back. You just can't help yourself. You go there instantly.
Every time I see a cop pass me, I always say this: yeah, I'm wearing my seatbelt, bitch. I still do it. I
love it.
It's so dumb.
Do you guys like any Don Knotts movies? Yeah, I mean, The Incredible Mr. Limpet's cool. I can't say I've watched one in a long time, but I know that they were supposed to remake that with Jim Carrey at one point in time. That'd be interesting to go back and look and see what all happened with that production of that movie. But I don't know if that's up your wheelhouse at all, if you were a big Andy Griffith Show fan or not. But yeah,
no, not me.
Not really a big Don Knotts fan.
No.
Okay, well let's kind of shift things. Let's talk a little bit of. Cool. All right. So now let's get into a little bit of the news of the week. So this is from Variety. It says Lilo and Stitch beats Ballerina at the box office as John Wick spinoff debuts at $25 million. So yeah, Lilo and Stitch took the #1 spot with $32.5 million. And so this is interesting because did you see either one of these movies? Did you see Ballerina or Lilo and Stitch?
I saw Lilo and Stitch. I haven't seen Ballerina.
Okay, so I put out like a pretty positive review for Lilo and Stitch. I didn't hate it. There were so many people though that came at me saying, that's such a piece of garbage. Disney did it again, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, man, I don't know. There were some pretty good heartwarming moments. My kids absolutely loved it. My wife loved it. My wife doesn't like anything when it comes to movies. She's just not a movie person at all. And she really, really enjoyed it. So I was like, hey, I don't really see what the big deal is, but people were mad that they left some characters out and changed a few things. But it seemed like one of those really good family movies. I don't know how you felt about it.
I enjoyed it. I didn't have anything to compare it to because I had never seen the original. So I went into this not knowing much of anything of the story.
Right.
And this is actually the first movie that my daughter, my 6-year-old, was asking to go see. Like this was the first time where she had seen a trailer, remembered it, and said, when is the Lilo and Stitch movie coming out? I can't wait to see this. So it was very exciting as a moviegoer myself, and loving the experience of going to the movies, to have my 6-year-old be the one that's excited, bring her little Stitch plush doll with her, it was really cool. So it was a nice experience. But putting all that aside, the movie itself, I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was great.
Yeah, not great.
Bad. And it was just a fun movie.
I thought it was a good time for the family, but I was a little bit older when the Lilo and Stitch came out, so I never really had like the, I guess, nostalgia that a lot of younger people may have had when they saw this movie. So I think leaving some of that stuff out offended the generation below us. I didn't, I always thought it was a fun Disney movie, but I didn't really care. So when I saw the new one, I was like, oh yeah, I mean, it was a fine remake, a live action remake, which Disney hasn't done a lot. So to me, it was kind of refreshing in that department. But what I will say for Ballerina, so that was a movie because I don't know if you paid attention at all to the embargo stuff that was happening with that movie. But essentially they put out to a lot of reviewers that they weren't going to allow anything negative to be said about the movie until June 4th. So they had an embargo on the movie. So if you were going to say something positive about the movie, they'd push it out.
Yes.
But until June 4th, you couldn't give your honest, nothing negative could be said about the movie. And so I went in right away already being like, I'm going to hate this movie. Just for that sort of thing where you're just like, that makes it so hard for people to trust anything anyone says about movies now. If you're really, if a movie studio is really going to go down that route, I think that's a really slippery slope, especially in the day and age of social media. If all you're doing is glazing something and then, you're not allowing any discourse, that just seems really shady, really off, and not a healthy way to do things. But then I saw the movie at the screening on this past Wednesday, and I loved it, man. It wasn't like the best movie ever, but it was way better than I was expecting it to be. There's no plot, essentially. The action is freaking awesome, and you get a little cameo from John Wick. So I was like, you know what? if I wanted to watch a badass action movie and I mean the action is spectacular in this movie, and I wanted to see, you know, John Wick do some cool shit, then this is like the perfect movie to go watch.
Especially it's going to be a tough watch for me because it's so hard to sit through and watch a movie with Ana de Armas. She's so hard to look at.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. You know, can you get someone a little bit more attractive?
Yeah, I mean, she is ridiculous.
I know, dude.
I've told my wife. I said, listen, just so you know, I love you, and I'm only seeing this movie because I love action, not because I love Ana de Armas. So I want to see it. I really do. I can't wait to watch it. But
yeah, I'm interested to hear what you say.
I did hear about this now that you mention it. I remember somebody else on TikTok talking about that, and I'm like, that's never a good sign.
Nope. So I went in with that perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I came out way. It was actually one of those nice things where you go in and you're like, I'm gonna hate this movie, and then you walk out and you actually, I had a way better time than I was expecting to have. So it was a pleasant experience.
Talk about the Crow remake.
Yeah, they should have never remade the Crow movie. It sucked balls. I 100% agree with that. I absolutely hated the Crow remake, but I love the first Crow. So I don't know how you felt about it, but they took everything about the original Crow and completely stripped the character of what it was. I really, really hated that movie. I think
Crow remake is, I mean, 5 stars easily. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I try to keep a straight face. I couldn't actually. I didn't grow up on the original. I own the original. I still have it on VHS. I don't have it on any other format.
Oh wow, VHS. That's awesome.
I like it. I don't find it to be a great movie. I still like it. You know, I think it's a little cheesy for my own taste, but I know that there's a huge fan base for that. However, I love Rupert Sanders.
I do too. I was real disappointed with this movie because
I think Snow White and the Huntsman is a fucking beast of a movie. I love that movie. The visuals in that are just
really, really cool.
And the characters, the action. I really think it's a great movie. And I'm a big fan of the Ghost in the Shell movie.
I didn't hate that movie either, but I'd seen the anime. I'm not a big anime guy. So watching the movie, I didn't find all the problems that I guess giant fans of that franchise really had with it. To me, it was just, if I separated myself from that, I thought it was a pretty kick-ass movie. Really, some really cool set design in that movie.
Yeah.
Really good use of CGI.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of directors struggle with these days is how to properly use CGI. Really good use of CGI in that movie. So no, I have no problem.
The visuals are insane. And I think that's where he shines. And there were moments in the Crow remake. I got it sent for free. Shout out to my friend Adam, who was like, you have to watch it, because I had to watch it. So he gave it to me. So I watched the movie, and there were moments that were really cool. There were like some stylized moments, which is what Rupert Sanders does in all of his movies. There's certain action set pieces that just very stylized, very cool. But overall, it didn't do anything. It didn't go anywhere. I didn't care for anybody. And we got to do away with CGI blood. Can we please just go back?
Man, I'm right there with you. The CGI blood drives me insane.
I saw that in the new Havoc movie.
Yeah.
What a disappointment.
Dude, that is my most disappointing movie of the year so far. Easily. Dude. Because I was like, dude, you got Gareth Edwards and Tom Hardy in a balls to the wall action movie. But I was like, the shaky cam, the fake blood, the absolute just like dog shit characters, and that ending, I was like, this movie sucked.
What about that whole video game intro with the cops chasing the truck? I'm like, what is going on? What's happened to this dude?
Yeah, that was a real bummer.
It made no sense. So annoyed. Anyways,
and then my buddy Derek Danny Dorito 23 says Galactus popcorn buckets looks cool, but not $80 plus tax cool.
I mean, hey, if you're a creator, that is a write-off.
That's true. That's true.
You can buy it, you display it, it's part of your set. It's a write-off.
Yeah, that's the thing. And when I'm doing my taxes at the end of the year, I'm like, I spend an awful lot of money on physical media and movie tickets and streaming services and all that fun stuff. So
I think I'm joking, but I'm dead serious.
No, you're dead serious. Ask any accountant.
That's a write-off.
So, all right, hopping on to this next story from Discussing Film over on formerly Twitter. Bidding wars happening for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre rights. Right now, it looks like Jordan Peele, Taylor Sheridan, that's wild, Osgood Perkins, Glenn Powell, and Netflix. So I feel like, you know, I don't know if you watched the Texas Chainsaw Netflix movie that came out.
I did.
Boy, that was a rough one. It was
Yep.
so modern day horror, and just none of the characters were likable. None of this stuff was, it was grotesque just for the sake of being grotesque.
Yeah.
Didn't have any tension. Not a good movie at all. So I'd like to see it not be a Netflix movie. I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like Oz Perkins this past year has really been like, people have just been raving about him, and I didn't like either one of his movies. I'll die on that hill. I didn't think The Monkey was that great. I didn't think Longlegs was that great. I thought they were fine, but people were making them out to be like the greatest movies that ever happened to cinema. And when I saw both of them, I was like, okay, I mean, those are fine. I'd never watch either one of them again.
Yeah. Longlegs, I didn't have any. I remember I just came back from Africa, so I had not seen anything on the movie, no trailers, no nothing. I just knew that it starred Nicolas Cage, and I went into this completely blind.
Yep.
I enjoyed it, and there were things I couldn't help it. Like, I just felt like Nicolas Cage was making me laugh. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you making me laugh? Like, you're going to Nick Cage on this.
Yeah.
Like,
He was
tone
way
it back.
too Nick Cage in that movie.
Yeah.
His character wasn't believable at all. I mean, he was kind of creepy, I guess you could say, but yeah, it was almost like he turned it up to 11 to the point where it was almost comical.
Yeah. And I felt like it was trying to be a little weird because it was like trying to be weird versus it just being weird in its own space, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Like a Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
That's what I was hearing, is like, it's a new modern day Silence of the Lambs. And I was like,
No.
it has all the makings of it. It's just none of the execution was what made the Silence of the Lambs so damn amazing.
Yeah. And when it ended, the Hail Satan thing just took me out.
Yeah.
I'm like, who wrote this? Is this like, are we in high school right now? Like, that's just what it felt like to me. Very amateurish.
Yeah, very on the nose. And did you watch The Monkey? Because that was another.
I did.
Yeah.
And The Monkey, I had no expectations on, and I think going into it with no expectations made me really enjoy it. I laughed my ass off at that movie. I thought that movie was just hilarious. Didn't think it was going to be like that, you know, like that kind of like humor, but it was just, maybe it was just in the right mood.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a good day. I don't know what it was. I really had fun just watching that.
The deaths were awesome in that movie. I will give that movie credit on that. I thought that was great. So Derek is saying, I feel like Taylor Sheridan already has enough on his plate. I agree. That dude's bitten off way too much. But Jordan Peele could potentially do something cool with it. I agree there too. Jordan Peele, I think, would do something interesting. I'm most interested with Glenn Powell and A24, because initially there was some mumblings that it'd be him and JT Molnar, who did what was that serial killer movie that came out this last year? It was freaking awesome, that Giovanni Ribisi was the DP on. Blanking right now. I don't know if you saw it. Highly recommend this movie. Let's see. Bear with me one second. Strange Darling. Darling. Did you get a chance to see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what'd you think of Strange Darling? Because I thought that movie to me was like, I didn't know much about it at all walking in, and
let me ask you this. Did you know the twist?
I didn't. So that's why I had such a good time watching that movie.
Interesting. I felt that the twist was just kind of given away within the 30-minute mark. Like, it was, to me, it was very obvious. And I'm not trying to sound like,
maybe I don't think it was,
like,
yeah, I know what you mean. I wasn't necessarily looking at, because I had no idea what the movie was about. So I wasn't really looking at it as a twist, I guess you could say. I was kind of like, I was more trying to figure out what was happening. And I liked that it was that non-linear storytelling, like an old Tarantino, Soderbergh sort of style of movie. So I was just kind of intrigued to see what was going on. I wasn't really trying to figure it out, I guess. But when I went back and watched it the second time, I was like, oh yeah, no, you could easily, I easily knew what was going on right then and there. Yeah.
I enjoyed it more because of being able to pick that up on my first viewing. I think had I not picked that up and then it like flipped it on me at the end, I probably would have felt a little like this feels very like gotcha, you know? And I really enjoyed the movie. But again, knowing that my wife didn't pick up on that, So she was actually like surprised at the end with that. And she enjoyed it, but she's more casual. So it's not like we can get into really deep conversations about it. But yeah, I think for me, being able to recognize that very early on made me appreciate the movie more, knowing that it was going to go there.
Sure. And just
But it
knowing
was
that
good.
Giovanni Ribisi was the DP on it makes that so much cooler to me, I think. Shooting that on 35 millimeter. But so, yeah, I think Glenn Powell taking it like that, I'm just interested to see what would happen there. I mean, I know it'd be in good hands with Jordan Peele. I mean, hell, having Taylor Sheridan take a crack at a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie would be pretty interesting, because that seems a little bit out of the realm of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
But like Derek was saying, I think he just has too many irons in the fire at this point in time. Like focus on your own things, like try not to, because the last season of Yellowstone was really bad. And, the Landman show has like some of the best of Taylor Sheridan and some of the worst. Like there's some parts in that show that just drove me absolutely insane. But I guess I'd be interested. I think his movies are super. I think Wind River is a very overlooked movie. I thought that movie was a borderline masterpiece. So I'd be interested to see it in his hands, see where that would go.
Yeah, I don't necessarily care for the idea of a new Texas Chainsaw. Like, what are they going to tell that's different?
That's kind of where I'm going. So I'd be interested to see. I mean, have you ever seen Texas Chainsaw 2? Like, it's such a cult classic. I love that movie just for how bad it is. It's terrible. So ridiculous. It's hilarious, and Dennis Hopper just saves that movie hands down. It's so funny. But yeah, I think you're right. I don't know where you go, because with the Netflix movie, they were trying some different things. It just none of it was working.
That whole legacy characters bringing back. I'm like, guys, can we just stop with this nonsense? We don't need to do this. Oh, that was the neighbor of the neighbor. No, stop. Just you don't need to bring people that were in a random scene. They're gonna do that with all movies. They're gonna have a guy that was in a convenience store when, from Jason Goes to Manhattan.
Right.
He's tied into the new. It's just dumb.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. Okay, let's see. So I don't know how you felt about this movie in particular, but a lot of people were singing its praises through the roof. But sounds like they're going to start shooting the Romulus sequel this year. I'm a huge fan of the Alien franchise, so this is one of the reviews I put out that I got some of the most flack on, because I didn't love it. I thought it was good. I thought it was good. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love it, and I think part of it was because it felt like fan service turned up to dial 11.
It was a Disney
dialogue
movie.
To the weapons they were using, and it had so much originality going for it in like the first 2/3 of the movie, and then it kind of I don't want to say jumped the shark, but it kind of lost me a little bit towards the end of the movie. But I am looking forward to a sequel. I really like Fede Alvarez. I think he's a freaking awesome director. But it wasn't my favorite Alien movie. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, I got a lot of shit for it too, and I didn't even post a review. I posted a meme. I think it was a Walking Dead meme where Carl or somebody's in the car, one of the characters, and it's just like looking out the window, and he slowly starts like crying because I was disappointed with the movie, because I was so hyped for it.
Same.
Right?
Same.
Like, I didn't think the movie was bad. I didn't think it was great either, how a lot of people made it out to be. I was just very disappointed, being a big fan of Alien series, being a massive fan of Fede Alvarez.
Yep.
And knowing that the man does everything practical. I remember being in the theater and then seeing the scene that took me out. I was shocked that somebody said, "Yep, this looks good. We're gonna go ahead and
We're
put
talking
this
about the human hybrid that they did in Alien Resurrection.
No. I'm talking about our buddy coming back from the dead and looking like, it was so bad. It took me out. I literally got taken out by the movie. I couldn't get back into it for like 30 minutes. I'm like, why don't we just put some more shadows on this man's face? We're not there yet with technology. We can't make it look like that. Just cover it up a little bit. We have his voice. We can hear that. have a couple of, moving parts. Like hide it in the shadows.
I know it takes place between the first and the second. I didn't know if that scene was necessary at all, but
no.
Yeah, I agree with you. That took me out a little bit, and then I saw that they went back and revised it to make it better, and it looked worse
in the Blu-ray. So they actually went ahead and added more shadows. They did try to fix it. It looks a little bit better.
Okay,
but it's still. I mean, it's not good. And I remember saying, I'm like, somebody watched that and said, yeah, guys, this is it. Like nobody thought it looked like mustache Superman when they did the
Justice League.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
That fat upper lip. Yeah,
it was so bad. And then I didn't care for the characters. I thought the girl that was pregnant was phenomenal, and I felt bad for her because she just went through hell and back to just die at the end.
Yep.
But I still didn't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was one of the, if you go back and watch the originals, I mean, Ripley, like you're rooting for that chick from the first frame of her on there, especially watching her journey. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I agree with you. That really struggled and getting me to care about any of the characters in that movie.
And then the icing on the cake was the Marvel moment. Get away from her, you bitch.
Uh-huh. That was what I'm talking about. That drove me crazy.
I could listen. I get it. We want to like, hey, you guys are watching. Thanks for paying. Yep. But all he had to say was get away from her. And we know, right? The audience knows. Yep. It's enough of a wink, but we don't need to go that route.
Yeah.
Why in his memory bank or in his why you bitch? He never once showed that. He never once was like that. It just came out of nowhere, and it was so obvious that
shoehorning in that fan service to.
He might as well have been wearing like a vintage T-shirt that said, I love James Cameron, and just said that. It was just so, man, it just really pissed me off. But
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree, and that's I'm encouraged with the sequel. I'm curious to see where they go with it and what they can even really do with it, since that does take place between the first and second Alien movie. And I don't even remember the main gal's name in that. Like I know they were trying to do like Ripley Part 2, and she just didn't put off those same vibes. I guess she didn't have the same survival instinct. And the thing going back, like watching Aliens, you see like almost a broken person there. She's still getting over the PTSD of all the shit she dealt with. And then she gets lost in space for 50 years, and then, becomes like that maternal figure to Newt and all that. So I was like, they really had like a really cool, deep character arc with her. And I don't, like I said, I didn't even remember the girl's name in Romulus. So that kind of goes to show that there was something really missing that the other Alien movies had.
I need somebody to, if anybody's listening to this and they spotted this, tell me I'm not crazy. Did anybody pick up on the incest in the movie?
No, I didn't.
The cousin, the girl that's pregnant, and the dude's brother. They're cousins, right? There is a moment where they come across each other after like everything's gone to shit. And they look at each other in such a way. It's not like, hey, cuz. It's like, I want to hug and kiss you right now, but I can't because we're hiding this. And that's my baby you have.
Interesting. Yeah, I need to go back and watch this now.
and I'm like, was there more there that they didn't show? Because they talk about the dad. He's not worth talking about or whatever. And it's describing the dude to a T. And then I saw that moment, and I remember being in theater like, no, just me? Okay. All right, cool. Like, nobody, okay, all right, yeah. I swear to God, those two boinked, and that was their baby. And that was the other thing about that kid's like whole arc. He was an absolute badass in that cryo chamber, whatever, when the face huggers come out. Oh, the dude's fighting them off. He's going to town with them. And I'm like, okay, we got our guy, right? We got our dude that's going to be the hero. We know he's going to die, but he's going to die like an honorable death. He's going to go out swinging. No, And he just stares at this fucking thing looking at him for like 2 minutes. And then it just like sprays in his face or whatever the case is. And then he's laying underneath it, knowing it's burning him. And he's waiting for more. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? It was whatever.
Yeah.
Pisses me off. Just
I agree. I agree. Well,
here's watch back for the incest.
Yeah, I'm going to, and I'm gonna reach out to you if I do notice that. Here's a segue. We did you see the trailer for Good Fortune with Seth Rogen, and Keanu Reeves is in that as well. Might be a comeback to comedy movies from the 2000s. I think it looks interesting. I mean, it was one of those. I'm trying to be better about not watching too many trailers. Like I'm good with kind of maybe like a setup teaser, so I don't really know what the movie's about. But I found myself like, did you watch Companion?
I did.
Was that movie just completely ruined for you by the trailers? Or because when I watched that movie, I was like, man, I would have loved this movie so much more if I hadn't seen the trailer for this, because they give away like one of the biggest parts of that whole movie.
So that was the second trailer. Yeah, I did not watch the second trailer.
Good for you.
Well, I watched the first trailer. I was like, this looks really good. We're walking into the theater. The poster for the movie. Her eyes are white.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, Companion, why? Son of a bitch. Like, I said it out. I didn't say it out loud because my wife was with me and she doesn't watch trailers. So yeah, I knew that was going to be the case. And yes, it definitely would have been huge, a huge reveal, a great reveal at that.
Awesome reveal. It kind of seems like that's what the whole movie hinges on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's almost like they didn't trust that the movie was going to do that well. Like,
yeah,
why put that out there? But my wife never saw a trailer for it. She was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
A robot. So it was great to see that reaction from her.
Yeah, because it has like that cool kind of misdirection at the beginning of the movie. You're like, there's something a little off with their relationship, but I can't really put my finger on it. Yeah. You know, and then when the reveal happens, I was like, man, it would have been so nice for me to be like, oh shit, I didn't know that was going to happen, as opposed to, all right, when is it revealed that she's an AI sex bot, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I've been talking to some people and like, I'm trying to not watch as many trailers. I mean, the problem is I go to the movies so much that, you know, you're going to catch a trailer here or there. Like I really didn't want to see the new 28 Years Later trailer, but going to the movies, I've seen it a couple times. I mean, there's just no avoiding it that way.
I do the turn to the left thing. Whenever like a trailer comes on, I'm at the theaters, I will look away. I'll start like saying something out loud, or I'll just get on my phone and start like talking.
Yeah.
I just block it out.
That's a good move. Yeah.
If I'm with my wife, I'll talk to her and just distract me.
I try to, I'm so like, I guess risk averse to having my phone out in the theater. I feel so weird doing it. And because I just hate seeing people on the phone in the movie theaters. But
yeah.
Well, that's a good segue for this next story. Let me pull it up here. Share this tab instead. So Martin Scorsese says he no longer likes going to the movie theaters, and fans agree. And in this, he basically is just like, people, you know, they're talking all the time and they're on their phones. And like I said, when I went and saw Dangerous Animals the other day, some dude was sitting on next, like a seat away from me. He was scrolling on his phone the entire movie. And then behind me, a couple walked in with a baby, and they had like a little rattler, like a little shake thing. So the whole movie, you just hear shh.
That's crazy.
You know, and I'm just like,
that is wild.
Yeah. And I actually looked at the guy a couple things. I was like, hey man, do you mind just putting your phone away? And he got all huffy or whatever, sat there. I could tell he was clearly pissed. And then about 10 minutes later, he walked out of the movie. So I was fine with that. I'm good with that interaction. But I agree with those. I see what Scorsese's saying. It's kind of sad to see that, because that dude is like Mr. Cinema, like Mr. Go to the movie theater sort of guy, always been their biggest hype man. So it's a little bit of like, that's what 2025 is these days, because I feel that way. I love going to the movie theater. And like, it's like one of the few things that makes me feel like being a kid again. But every time I go to the theater, yeah, you're either dealing with like some phone scrolling warrior, or just a person that thinks they can just have a conversation in the middle of the movie for whatever freaking reason. So yeah, there's definitely some frustration going to the theaters these days. I don't know if you get to experience this as much where you are, but it's a real problem.
Yeah. My issue is that, I live in the Midwest right now, but I spent most of my time in the East Coast, so I have this thing called attitude. um, and it's a Jersey attitude on top of it, and I'm Hispanic, so that doesn't
Oh
mix
yeah, my
very
wife's
well.
Hispanic, man. You know, you'd
Yeah,
be the nicest person ever, but
yeah.
right as I piss her off, boy.
So we had a situation while we were watching Final Destination Bloodlines. A kid just took out his phone and started recording the screen, but in doing so, his flashlight was on the phone,
Oh,
and then it dimmed the whole screen. And at first, I thought it was the projector. I'm like, "What the hell's going on? Something's off." And everybody started looking, and then I saw the source of the light. So I immediately got up and I walked up to him, and I basically said things that I'm not going to repeat here. And then he turned it off. And like, listen, I'm not trying to be Mr. Tough Guy, but there's a certain point like I'm paying for this experience.
yeah,
Nobody's going to ruin it for me, and I'll do certain things. Like I will. Sometimes I'm surprised I'm not going to get into an altercation with somebody at some point, but there will come a time where I will. I know I will. Somebody's going to want to reciprocate that same energy
sure.
that I'm bringing. Which, hey, bring it on. I'm fine. But yeah, when it comes to stuff like that, like I don't give it flying fuck. Like I really don't. Like this is like I'm being as serious as possible. Like if you and I were to go to the movies together in Texas, Chris,
Yeah,
I promise you it will take 0.3 seconds and I will either shut the shit down or get somebody. I will be a
yep,
full-blown Karen at the movie theaters. I
yeah,
have no problems doing so because I didn't come here to spend my money to hear you bitch, hear you talk. I don't want to know what your friend did and
yeah,
who she followed or unfollowed on Instagram. I don't care. Shut your mouth.
yep,
It's very simple, or get out. Or I will request my money back if management is not doing something about it. I've also kind of learned that there's certain movies that I will see only at certain times. So
sure.
for like horror films specifically, I try not to see them opening night because that crowd is usually teenagers,
Yep,
kids that they're gonna say I'm a kid, and then they use that against me and shit. And it's like, beat down's a beat down. Like it doesn't matter if you're
yep,
legal, whatever. But I will watch something like I watched Bring Her Back at like 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was the only person in the theater. It was great, you
yeah.
know.
That's
So
great.
there's certain things I will do, but unfortunately, people can be assholes. But it honestly, people are too soft these days.
Yes,
People need to
100%.
speak the fuck up. Like, don't be afraid. Like, you pay the same money that person paid, and they shouldn't be doing that. And management and theaters just all around the country need to step up their shit.
Yep.
Cut it out. What happened to the days of kicking people out? I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's why.
Get
Do
them.
you have Alamo Draft Houses where you are?
No. We
So
have cinema.
those are they started in Texas, but I think they branched out a little bit. But they're the best movie theater because they have an absolute no talking, no cell phone policy. So if someone's talking in there, you could write a note, and that like you just press the button, and the staff or whatever will come up. And if they don't want to talk to you, they want you to write it down. So when you hand it to them, be like, "Hey, this person over here is talking." They'll go up and they'll ask them one time to stop, and then if they have to come back again, they kick them out. No refunds.
There you go.
Like,
That's
that's
it.
the best policy ever. Like, I don't know why every movie theater doesn't do that. And it's the same thing with cell phones. If you're on your cell phone, they'll give you one warning, and then boom, you're out.
Yeah.
So Alamo Drafthouse has it figured out. I wish that like every movie theater would just adapt their policies. And if you ever come to Texas, I highly recommend you go to one. You'd be like, this is the best. They have awesome drinks, awesome food, like really cool. Like they're movie lovers that created a movie theater. And that's kind of the thing that I get annoyed with. I go to Cinemark a lot because that's, I live right next to one. But they have that corporate structure.
Yeah.
And all the employees that work there are 15 years old. So they're afraid to be like, hey, can you please be quiet? It's like, no, dude, just kick these people out. Yeah. Everyone else here is trying to enjoy the movie, and this one person's ruining the entire experience for everybody in here. So I agree.
Every now and then I'll get somebody that says something before I do, and I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks. It feels good.
I like that too.
Like it's just, but a lot of times, man, you just like, how do you think that this is okay?
I agree.
Just,
but it's also, I was talking to someone, I'm like, how do you fix this problem? Because one of the things I do like is like with comedy clubs nowadays, or like even some music venues, you have to put your phone in like a little Ziploc bag or whatever, and they put it in like a little locker for you, and you can, like, if you need to use it or whatever, you can step out and go to like a designated cell phone talking area. I'm like, man, that would be awesome if they could institute that into a movie theater, but people are just such Karens. They would they would never allow that.
And somebody would sneak it
Can't live
in
without their phone for 10 seconds.
Yeah, you get people sneaking in the phone. I mean, honestly, it needs to come back to just having rules and actually,
I agree,
following through. I mean, it's not a hard concept. It worked 20 years ago. Why can't it work again?
Yeah. You are right. So one last story, and then we can call this thing a day. So it looks like Walton Goggins is reportedly in talks for playing M. Bison in the new Street Fighter movie. And I'm weirdly intrigued by this.
I can't wait.
Goggins is in talk to play the role of M. Bison in the new Street Fighter movie. Additionally, it was rumored that country musician Orville Peck, I don't know who that is, known for wearing a mask in public, is in talks to portray the fighter Vega, which is cool. I don't remember Vega. Well, I guess he was in the movie, but I don't know. I haven't seen that movie in so long. But Raul Julia, like that's one of my favorite, like over the top B schlocky movie performances ever. And it was like, I think that dude knew he was dying at the time he was making that movie, so he just went balls to the wall.
Yeah.
And I have such nostalgia love for that terrible film. I think that was one of the movies I saw when I was a kid. And you remember when you were a kid, like you liked every movie you saw, even if it was complete dog shit. I remember watching that movie at the time when I was a kid going, I don't think this is a good movie, but I still love it. Like I remember actually having that conversation with myself that this movie sucked, but I still liked it because it was Street Fighter. How do you feel about that? Like I honestly, I'm at the point where I'm like, put Walt Goggins in anything. Like,
bro, I will watch anything that man is in. He is one of my favorite character actors that I've seen in such a long time. Like he reminds me of those 80s and 90s, actors that you may not have known their name, but you would recognize them in all of the movies that they're in, and they always stood out. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like the 80s had them, tons of them, 90s had them, and just kind of disappeared. But he is that guy. Like everything he's done, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, he's so good at, especially when he's a bad guy, dude. He thrives as a bad guy.
Yeah, Justified. He was amazing in that series.
Fat Man.
Yeah.
Did you see Fat Man? Phenomenal.
Yeah. Dude, Fat Man is an underrated Christmas gem. Yes. I always say that. I'm like, dude, Mel Gibson is like a military trained Santa is freaking awesome. Like he works for the government, basically like the postal service. It's so good, dude. Great movie. And the kid who's like the villain that hires Walt Goggins to go kill Santa, like that kid is such a piece of shit. I love that movie, man. Yeah. I watch it every Christmas.
Yeah.
I always tell everybody. I made a list on YouTube like of some criminally underrated Christmas movies, and I put that like towards the top because I just fucking love that movie. But yeah, you're right. Like I even remember him in The Shield when he was like the cross-dresser or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that guy back then being like, that dude has something.
Yeah.
But then, I think he single-handedly saved this newest season of White Lotus. I didn't really care for it as much as I did the other two, but his character was so good in it. And the stuff that he was doing with Sam Rockwell was just like masterclass level.
Yeah. Predators, he was such a piece of shit.
Yes.
What a scumbag of a character. And still, I wanted more of him. I could watch a whole movie about him.
He's real good at playing that smarmy character that just gets under your skin.
The Hateful Eight too. I mean, it just goes on and on. He's phenomenal in it.
He was in Django, wasn't he? Wasn't he in Django?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, I know.
I feel like I would have remembered that.
I think he was. Like, I think he plays part of the KKK dudes. I might be remembering that wrong, but
he. You know that Danny and Michael Philippou were supposed to direct the Street Fighter movie.
Yes, I did hear that, but I don't.
This
think
was
that's
supposed to be the follow up or the next film after Talk to Me originally.
Okay.
But they
now they're doing Talk to Me, their sequel.
Yeah. And they wrote two scripts.
I was actually just going to mention that. I was talking with them about last week, and they have two scripts, and it seems like they're kind of putting the audience consensus out there to see which direction they should go with it, which I think is pretty fucking rad.
Yeah, but I'm afraid. I'm a little afraid because one of them, I know that. I mean, I'm assuming A24 would still be behind it, but one of them screams more Hollywood than more independent.
Is it the like the completely different direction, just kind of making it like a universe of Talk to Me, or is it?
Yeah, like just like
I wanted to do either a direct sequel, like events that happened right after the last movie, or just like a completely different character.
Yeah.
So it seems like they'd be opening it up to like a Smile world sort of thing,
which is fine. It's like okay, but it doesn't really move forward. This the story at all.
Well, I was talking last week and I said, I think almost feel like they should do a different character, but I was like, I'd be more interested to see what would happen, like when she is the dead entity from that the hand is from the end of that movie. Like that character, like everything that led up to that moment, I think would be a really cool perspective to follow along.
Yeah.
And it'd be cool if like you didn't know that's what's going on. Like they're following the characters and then it ends with her at the end. I'm like, that'd be really solid. How do you feel about Talk to Me? Was that one that
I loved it.
Blew your socks off when you first saw it?
I loved it, man.
I walked in, I didn't know much about it, and then I left and I go, man, that movie was like one of my favorite horror movies I've seen in the last 5 years.
That's probably been the most hyped I was for a movie to come out in over 10 years. I mean,
Really?
like I said, I was a huge Rocka fan. Still am.
Yeah, that's right. You knew all about them. I didn't know anything about them.
I was, when they announced that they were making a horror movie, I lost my mind. I was like, this is amazing. I remember people saying, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they direct a horror movie? I'm like, have you not seen their videos? Like the Ronald McDonald stuff is terrifying. There's one where he does a whole like massacre in the playpen inside of a McDonald's. It is vile. Okay.
Wow.
There is a scene in there that is, these guys, mind you, they never went ahead and monetized any of their videos because they didn't want any of them getting pulled
all the
down.
Rules and all that stuff. Yeah,
they were able to put all of that because they didn't monetize a single one of them. And I'll send you the link to this Ronald McDonald video.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
It was the stuff of nightmares. Like it obviously had its humor, it had its gore and all that, but there was just moments that I'm like, yeah, these guys are perfect for this. So I was very hyped. I remember watching that first scene, knife to the face. Yep, we're in this. Yeah. We're in this bitch now.
When I watched that movie for the first time, I was like, man, this feels like a seasoned director. Like a lot of the elements that they used in that movie were like, you don't see this from first-time filmmakers. Yeah. And like you said, I guess they were putting out just killer content for a while. Yeah. So you weren't surprised to see that they were able to put out such a banger of a movie. Well structured, well shot. Everything that you could really say that you would never expect a first-time filmmaker to do. So
yeah, these guys are putting out quality. I mean,
they are
Mortal Kombat fighting in their backyards with their mom and their younger siblings. Like, you watch all that stuff, you're like, yeah, this makes sense.
And it's funny because they're just such goofball guys too. Like when you see them. I actually heard someone say they're like the Australian versions of Terrence and Phillip, and now that's just like what I can't ever unsee that.
That's funny. That is funny.
Yeah. Well, Chino, man, I think we're gonna start wrapping things up, dude. But I can't thank you enough for hopping on today. I had a great time chatting with you. It's always nice to talk to somebody where you're on the same wavelength with a lot of these things. So
I appreciate the invite, man. I'm sorry I talked to you fucking brains out here.
No, dude, I love that. That's the point. And a lot of the people watching seem to really enjoy it too. So tell everybody what you got coming up, where they can find you, all that fun stuff.
What do I got coming up? I've actually written a few scripts.
Oh, okay.
So I posted one the other day, a little sneak peek, if you will.
Okay.
It's called Native Tongue. It's a horror comedy.
Okay.
And I'm currently working on another one right now that is a straight up horror, something that was inspired, an actual crime scene inspired me to write this one. Don't really want to say anything else on it, but yeah, got a couple of scripts. I start shooting my feature next year.
Oh, so wow. Awesome.
Yeah,
is it like fully funded, or are you just doing it yourself? Just gonna
go no, we have funding, but most of it is me.
That's awesome, dude.
Going heavy on it. So we just finished the script on that.
Is it going to be a short, or is it going to be like a full length?
This will be a full length. Yeah.
Awesome, dude. I hope you can get it into like the film festival circuit or something.
But other than that, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube at Chino_collects. Sometimes I'm posting daily. Other times you won't hear from me for like a week because I'm a moody bitch. So there's that.
Aren't we all? All right, Chino. Well, hey man, thanks so much for hopping on. Thanks everybody for watching. Like I said, I'm off next week. I'm gonna be traveling, but then we'll be back the week after, and we can chat some things. So happy Father's Day to all you awesome dads out there, and have a good rest of your Sunday, everybody.
Bye.